by an 04 driver. You figure that one out. Dan Runny, new kid on the block of Bob and Marilyn Chandler's operation. He'll be driving the Bigfoot Power Wheels vehicle. That's the new Bigfoot black truck with flames. He is going to be a player today. Keep an eye on this kid. He's a new kid on the block in the stables. Meanwhile, the old pro in that stables, Andy Brass, he's sat and pat. He's staying with the same combination he had last year. Remember the name
Took
Ray?
on Colt Cobra. Dan Patrick, the American Gladiator, in the near lane. There is the snake bite truck in the far lane. And this victory in round one would go to Colt Cobra with a clocking of 5.56. But look at that nose stand on the landing. And there's the time for Colt Cobra as he advances. Also from
Both
round
barrels
one.
and coming after him. Point in hand, Gary. Out of North Carolina, Wadesville, North Carolina, Gary Porter comes back on the circuit again. When the points went up by PENDA, all the Chevrolet boys said, let's go get them. This is going to make for an interesting year. However, Andy Brass and Bigfoot doing what he does well. Goes a 5.23. He'll be a player.
Another who moved from the Bigfoot operation over to Don Van Loo's team to run against the guy who replaced him driving for Bob Chandler, Dan Runte. And it is...
Runte drills him with a 5.5 shot. Now notice the new colors on the Bigfoot truck they call Bigfoot Power Wheel, Gary.
Round two.
Well, Andy Brass is going to come out. He's your defending world champion, kind of like an old pair of loafers. He's driving the same truck he was in last year. Paul Schaefer in the other lane out of Portage, Indiana, be representing the Chevrolet camp. We're glad to have this guy on the tour. And like I said earlier, the Chevrolet guys kind of got behind the barn, gave themselves a pep talk, and they would have bumped these Fords and Dodge out of this sports lead seat. But in order to do it, you got to get past this guy, and that's one tough little job.
Yeah, it's not only Ford, it's the Bob Chandler juggernaut.
Yeah, Chandler is to this sport what Penske or Junior Johnson or somebody is to NASCAR and Indy Series. I mean, somebody seems to be on top and seems to be Chandler. Look at this. We got a race.
And it is, oh, look at that. Call that a mild upset.
Boy, everybody in the grandstand has got a Chevrolet shirt on is grinning ear to ear. A 5.30 for Schaefer. Boy, this is Schaefer's comeback tour.
Andy Brass at 5.32, ever so close, but Paul Schaefer takes the victory. Let's take a look again.
Really, Schaefer pulled him on the other end, I think at half track. Brass actually had him, but Schaefer starts motoring that big Chevrolet engine. Yeah, right there and flies past him.
Very uncharacteristic that Andy would be taken mid-track, but that's exactly what happened. Let's go down trackside and talk to Paul Schaefer. Actually, this is Bigfoot 14, and earlier Army asked Dan what it's like to step into those big shoes.
It's a beautiful truck to drive. The four-link we've changed. The back suspension, we no longer run a cantilever. We run a 28-inch shock, which is straight up and down. It makes the ride a little different. It's a good driving truck, and it's a real privilege to be out here running this with all these other guys.
Well, he goes against a heavyweight in Fred Schaefer. Notice the new paint job now on the Dodge. There's a look at Fred out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, and he is always a factor.
This is going to be an old-time slapping contest because you got bragging rights on the line. Number one, Dodge in the far lane, new kid in the Ford near lane, new sponsor. Everybody's trying to impress everybody. You call it, Gary.
It's all Dodge. All Dodge as Fred Schaefer has some trouble in the landing. There's a 5.16 for Schaefer. Not a very good day for the Ford camp and Bob Chandler.
Well, I was going to say, in the last two races, Chandler's put two of his big guns back in the trailers.
Look again. It looks like the whole shot for Schaefer. Bit of a wheelie right there, and it's all Fred Schaefer. Barefoot, the Dodge takes the victory.
Driven as a privateer, driven some other vehicles. He's out of Columbia City, Indiana. However, now he's teamed up with Marty Garza, one of the unsung heroes in the sport, and they are going to be going against Colt Cobra out of Cobra Creek, Colorado. Now, earlier in qualifying, Cobra showed us that he is literally going to have this thing on kill today. He wants to win the PENDA Point Series. He said, I'll do anything it takes to win this thing. That was just the qualifying shot.
Is that what you call full boogaloo?
Double throwdown, full boogaloo, thank you.
All right, now back to action. In this round, Dabney, the near lane Colt Cobra, who is back in the cockpit of Snakebite. He did some R&D work last season. Now he's back in the cockpit, and it is, yeah, Colt Cobra.
He pulls the trigger.
Almost rolls it over.
He's trying to shut it down, Gary, on the big end. Ugh.
Oh. There was a case where he got up on two wheels. He kept his foot in it, though, and pulled it back out. He used every bit of runoff area.
I'll tell you what, that was great driving, but also these trucks have a kill switch. I want you to realize that whoever was operating that kill switch did the right thing. If they would have turned his power off right now, he would have gone on over. They let him drive the truck out before they hit the kill switch. Man, that was close, Gary Lee.
Look at how close it gets to that water tanker down there, and right behind the water tanker was our camera position. as we'll have a chance to take one more look at this wild, stirring ride by Colt Cobra in Snakebite. Question is, was any damage done to the truck? They're coming right at you, and watch this landing on the right-hand lane.
Boy, he takes a bounce. Now, right now, he's on the throttle. It kicks sideways on him, but watch, it starts to roll over. Now you have to have horsepower to plant it back on the ground. See, he hits the throttle and it pulls it down. Now we got another problem. It's called big water truck.
He's on the binders now over what appears to be a log down there, or a telephone pole. Gets it stopped, however. He is okay. He's had a chance to make his way back to the pit area, and he's with Army Armstrong.
Okay, what we're looking at right now on the top end of the track, the driver's out of the truck. He's okay. Jim Kramer's checking the rear suspension of the truck. But we're going to take you around it to show you what's unique down here. At the very end of the track, they had a bunch of poles. Well, the driver, trying to get the truck shut down, actually got into the poles. You know, it's a lot of axles. First of all, you okay, Cole? Ride, heck of a ride.
Yeah, it was a heck of a ride. We've been having some suspension, not problems, but we've been working on them. We knew we had to race. We had to come out. We had to give it everything we had. And going against somebody like Overkill, you saw the passes he put down earlier today. We knew we couldn't back out of it. I'm fine. All the safety equipment worked flawlessly. As far as we can tell, the truck's not hurt. We're going to be back next round.
Let me ask you a question. We've been watching you on the top end of the track. You are getting your neck wrung every time this truck lands. I mean, your head is really ripping around in there. Does that bother your neck at all?
Snakes don't have necks.
Got you, Army! We'll come back with the semifinal action from Lima, Ohio. Stay with us. And we are ready now for side-by-side monster truck action.
We talked at the beginning about the parity in the manufacturers. Well, we got 2 Fords, 1 Chevy, and 1 Dodge at this point in the competition. You know, the Bigfoot Cruiser, that's kind of an interesting phenomenon because that truck is under the sponsorship of Ford, who has a new vehicle that you can buy off the showroom floor called the Bigfoot Cruiser.
After that wild ride the last round, you can see that Snakebite is back together. No damage to that truck. And there's a look from inside the cockpit at Andy Brass.
You know, in the interview, Snakebite said snakes don't have necks or anything. Well, I'll go along with that. On the other side of the slate is a guy that's got a good head on top of his neck, Andy Brass. Now, he went out in the previous round, but he comes back to the quick side of the bracket. Now, I guarantee you, he's like an old-time gunfighter. Andy Brass still thinks he can win this thing.
Andy Brass is going to win it big time. Now, there may have been some damage, however. That run turned in by Snakebite may not be indicative of the kind of run that he normally could do. Yeah, it could be a result of that last run.
He nets a 6:11, qualified in a 5, Brass a 5:16. So you're talking some time difference there, but the story here is Andy Brass is back into this thing through the loser bracket, and the kid with no neck, he's still got it on kill in the far lane.
But 5:16 is faster than Brass qualified. And he really picked up the wheels, had a rough landing there. He is standing by now with Army Armstrong.
Tell me about that last race.
Well, the last one was, you know, we just come into the run there. We knew we was going to have to run hard. You know, we was trying to figure out who was going to be in the finals. We was looking at the times. The times have real been good on the other guys, so we knew we was going to have to push it hard, and that's what we did. You know, we run down there. The lane's getting a little loose on us, but we think the Firestones are doing us a good job, so we're just horsepowering her on down through there.
Now it's the battle of the Schaefer boys.
Speaking of loving, it's time for the finals, and it's got a Dodge and a Ford. You gotta love this, Gary Lee.
Yeah, back to the starting line. Today's toughest monster trucks prepare to do battle in the finals here in Lima, Ohio. It's Andy Brass. There he is, the Bigfoot Cruiser. And remember, he came from the loser's bracket.
Gary, Andy Brass is working his way back to the finals on this thing, but he said earlier he had made some changes in order to get back to the final. Can you tell me what the changes were? Because they seem to really work.
Well, a lot of changes just in the gearing. You know, I tried something new in my shifting habit on down the track, and it seemed to lose a little bit. You know, we got the new John Kazi Hemi in the truck, so now I'm just trying to shift early, let the motor lug on down through there. It's building us some good horsepower, and as long as we can keep these Firestones connecting to the track, I think we're going to do a pretty good job today.
Well, there's a look at Barefoot and Fred Schaefer. Remember that great hole shot he had in the semifinal round?
Well, Schaefer runs a Lenco transmission in the red truck, Dodge in the far lane. And it's kind of like winding up a rubber band on a little airplane. The harder you go, the harder it'll hold. So he is ready to go. Now, the Kazi horsepower that Brass was talking about is in the engine compartment, so both drivers seem to have an edge. Fred with the transmission, the Bigfoot truck, and Andy Brass with horsepower. But the bottom line is
whole shot, Andy Brass. Oh, Andy hangs on for the victory. Yes, he does at 5:13. It looked like he got the hole shot, but then right there was Fred Schaefer.
Schaefer stayed on him like a bird dog, but Brass making the horsepower, mile an hour on the other end and comes back to the loser side of this bracket. Look at the start. A good start by both guys. Watch them settle down in no man's land. You notice the wheels up on the Ford. Now the Dodge makes horsepower and powers the wheels up. They pull the trigger on the last jump.
Oh, by less than a fender, it's Andy Brass. Brass takes the victory here in Lime, Ohio. There's a shot inside the cockpit as we ride with him again. The track may be straight, but look at him work on that steering wheel. Andy Brass, a real workout in the Bigfoot Cruiser. He takes the victory. He's with Army.
Andy Brass proving he's a champion in the fact you just don't give up. You got back into this thing to the loser bracket. Now you're the national points leader.
Yeah, you know, the Ford Bigfoot here has been running well for us today. Just like I say, we slacked off a little bit to one round, and it's something we proved that you can't do out here in the race series now because everybody's so competitive. So we just stepped back in it. We knew what we had to do, and we was going to have to push it hard. We knew Fred was going to run hard. So like I said, that's all we could do. The John Kazi Hemi did us a good job. Like I say, Firestone's hooked up for us, and I think we did it real well today.
Well, our congratulations to Andy Brass. We'll have a chance to take a look now at in the near lane, Colt Cobra. In the snakebite truck, the far lane is Ray Perkowski.
And Cobra literally drills him on the start line, Gary, in that first round. Perkowski's still getting used to the new truck combination, and before the year's over, he'll be a player. But right now, that's the guy that's holding the hot hand in this sport. Speaking of hot hands, look at the pairing in the next round. The Hall brothers come out to go against none other than
Andy Brass, Bigfoot Cruiser. Once again, this is action from round one. It was all Andy Brass. There was a problem with Mark Hall. He did not finish, and there's the 5:21. Andy's not qualifying that well, but he's very, very fast in competition. Here is Paul Schaefer and Dan Patrick. Schaefer the near lane, Patrick the far lane. It was all Schaefer.
Schaefer comes to the sport through the sport of dirt track racing, trying to make a name for himself in monster trucks, and he is doing it rapidly.
Dan Runte had a single in round one. There was a problem with the kill switch on Gene Patterson's truck, so the Bigfoot Power Wheels vehicle had the bye run, a single, at a 5:55. He comes out of Columbia City, Indiana. He pulls alongside Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. And earlier, Army had a chance to take a look at this vehicle.
Gary, well, walking through the pit area, we found something I want to point out to the people. A lot of folks don't realize that monster truck chassis are adjustable, and they do adjust them in order to make the truck react differently. Proof in the hand. Look at here. When they went out to qualify first, the 4-link bar was in this hole right here. They didn't like the way the truck reacted, so they dropped the bar down 3 more inches. Now what that does is changes the complete geometry of the suspension. This is a 4-link suspension, so when you drop it this much, it changes the whole geometry of the suspension, allowing the driver to actually adjust the truck. So this proves, just like any other form of motorsport, circle track, they put wedge in, or they take wedge out, or they put stagger in, they take stagger out. This proves that a monster truck chassis is adjustable, and they do use the adjustments. Back to you, Gary.
Yeah, this is high-tech motorsports at its best as round 2 competition now gets underway. Dabney the near lane, Runte the far lane. Oh, who was it, Arnie?
Oh, it's not over yet. What a run. We wanted the folks at home just to see what it's all about and get a little bit of the excitement in this sport when those motors start to roar.
5:20, Kirk Dabney takes it 3/100ths of a second. He takes the victory.
Got to keep the wheels on the ground to make the horsepower stick. Both drivers leave good, but watch the chassis unload on the far side. That was that bar we told you about just a moment ago. The chassis change didn't work.
And there's the margin of victory for Kirk Dabney as he climbs out of the net winner in round 1 over Fred Schaefer. She comes out of a real sprint car town, Hagerstown, Maryland. They've got some fine dirt track racing in that part of the country. And there is a look at Colt Cobra in the snakebite pickup.
You know, Colt knows this young lady is for real. Watch for him to make a real quick move on the starting line. The starting line is where Vaughters drilled Fred Schaefer a moment ago. The snake's not going to let that happen to him. He'll be in the far lane, ladies in the near lane. In this sport, is it ladies first? Not. They don't believe in that. First one to the other end is going to go to the next round.
And by just that much, it was Colt Cobra, 5:26. So Colt will advance, and there's a look at the boogie van, and Pam Vaughters, 5:38. From a Ford van to a Ford pickup. Earlier we talked about Andy Brass not making many changes in the season. There have been some cosmetic changes to this Ford pickup. And earlier, Army talked to Andy about the new color scheme of the Bigfoot Cruiser.
Bigfoot Cruiser, a new name added to the Bigfoot with a new color scheme. Andy Brass, tell us about the cruiser side of this.
Well, the Bigfoot Cruiser package is a package that we've been working with on Ford. We're trying to put together a F-150 and a Ranger pickup. It's going to look like the truck here. It's another cruiser package that we ran years ago, and this is just like an off-step of it. You know, we come back out with the truck, we changed the body style on it a little bit, added some stripes to it, and now you're able to buy a pickup with basically the same stuff. And also what it shows here is a transition from the old blue trucks with the yellow and the orange stripe into the new style, where we start out with the old stuff and kind of fade through some new style striping. Also, and add a little bit of the Wildfoot colors into it, and you know, we come out with a new paint scheme. You know, we're into the 90s now, so we're changing the paint scheme a little bit on the trucks.
From the most recognizable name in monster truck racing to a relative newcomer.
Well, the newbie you're talking about goes by the name of the Monster Patrol, and he may be new to this sport, but he's not new to motorsport. He's made a name for himself in dirt track stock car racing. It's Paul Schaefer out of Portage, Indiana, national champion in the mud racing sport, and he has teamed up with Van Zandt's engines to make the horsepower, and he's not afraid of any of these guys. He may be relatively new in time in the seat, but as far as horsepower, he'll go head-to-head with anybody.
Good tight run, but Andy Brass takes it by what, about 2 feet, maybe 3 feet at the most, a 5:11. A good run, a good time for Andy Brass. And looking for the time now of Paul Schaefer, a 5:16, ever so close. But Brass takes the victory.
I can't believe you lose in this heat with a 5:16. That's an awesome run. Both trucks leave together, settle down over the first jump, and from now on out is just muscle.
Well, the fast loser can come back. We'll see what happens. Here's Andy with Army.
Andy, one thing about this series, man, it's tough. I mean, it's going to be, if you can be a champion on this series, you are the champion.
Yeah, this year's really going to be a tough series for us. We knew it coming into the series here that everybody was going to be running close this year. The times are really coming down. We're running within 1/100th or 2/100ths of each other. And out here on this kind of track where the track changes a lot, that can be a big difference, you know. But we think we're pretty confident here with the Ford. You know, it's been doing us a good job. The John Kazi Hemi's been making some power. The Firestones are hooking up. You know, the Trailmaster shocks. We got the suspension dialed in. Like I say, the track's biting good today, so we're thinking we're going to do pretty good today.
It will be Chevrolet against Ford in the finals, because right here we've got a pair of Fords. The Bigfoot Cruiser with Andy Brass. He'll be in the near lane, the far lane, Colt Cobra, and Snakebite, another Ford.
Again, the engine location is a main difference in the vehicles. They may look the same. However, the Fords have realized you've got to move the engine mid-chassis or in the middle of the vehicle to make the truck really balance out. That seems to be the combination working for them. Both of these trucks have that type of a chassis setup, Gary. Both of them run 460 cubic inch engines, supercharged by the blower drive service out of California. So the horsepower is about the same. Basically, it's going to be a driver's race.
And they battle right now for the right to meet Paul Schaefer for the championship here in Lima, Ohio. There's the far lane. That is Snakebite and Colt Cobra back in the cockpit after a year off for some research and development work. And he goes up against the biggest name in monster truck racing, Andy Brass.
Brass and the Bad Blue takes the win.
Andy Brass by over a fender at 5:04. Brass keeps getting faster throughout the afternoon. There's the 5:20 for Colt Cobra. A 5:04. That is incredible for Andy
awesome,
Brass.
yeah.
As we look back across the track, the other drivers have been in the teens, but he sets it down to a 5:04. He takes the victory. Here's Army.
Once again, Andy climbing out of the vehicle. Tough run.
Yes, it was. You know, we were watching Snake. His time's been good. We've been looking at Monster Patrol and Overkill. Both the guys been running some good times there, you know. So like I say, we're just going to have to bear down and make a good, fast run. We had to get fast times. We had lane choice. We feel that the right lane's a little better lane today. It's a big thing right now this year is who can get the traction between the cars, and I think that's where we're starting to pick it up. You know, the suspension's holding us down on the first set. We're able to get the traction between the cars and turn in some fast times.
Been inspired by the monster truck drivers.
Well, they got air of one kind. These guys are going to get air of a completely different nature. We're serious now, Gary.
Back to the starting line, Andy Brass and Paul Schaefer. Andy Brass had lane selection. He took the near lane, which is his right lane. The far lane is Paul Schaefer.
Andy Brass will put the Ford, representing the blue oval bunch, that's their logo on the front of the truck, in the right lane. The big story today could be who's going to represent the bow tie brigade, if you will. The Chevrolet logo is a bow tie. In the past, we've had people such as Jerry Porter, we've had USA #1, but not for a couple of years has the Chevrolet camp had anybody that could step up and flex the muscle that it's taken to win the Monster Truck Championship. This kid could be the bearer of that.
As we look on, the crew looks on. We are ready for the finals. Let's watch and listen. Here they are.
Well, you can feel the drama, Gary. Ford Chevy.
And it's Andy Brass by a fender. It was so close, though, from the angle the crew was watching, from our television angle. We could see there's the 526 for Paul Schaefer, but we could see that Andy Brass did indeed take the victory, his second victory of the Young Monster Truck Racing Series.
Boy, nothing for the Chevrolet camp to be ashamed of. They've got a new guy. His name's Schaefer, and he will be a player before the year's over. Look how close this was.
Andy Brass pads his points lead in the PENDA Points Series after 2 events. As we take a look at the points, there's Andy Brass, some 650 points up on Paul Schaefer. Then it's Colt Cobra, Fred Schaefer, and Kirk Dabney. Here's your winner.
Well, Gary, we've been here before, but it seems to be getting harder and harder to stay in this winter's end of this thing. Great year ahead of us, isn't there?
Yes, it is. Like I say, the competition's real stiff this year. We knew we was going to have to run hard. We knew we kind of pulled a bad shot off the line. We got a good hole shot, but it pulled us to the left there a little bit, kind of messed us up. We had to stay in it because we knew Paul was going to make a good run, so we had to do it. But the Ford come through for us, and we did make a good run, good fast time. That's what I'm happy with.
So Andy Brass leaves Lima, Ohio with a solid 6:50 right there. She was the 7th fastest qualifier. After a poor showing in Lima, it appears as if Dan Patrick in the American Gladiator has really stepped it up a notch, taking on Snakebite in round 1. And Patrick would notch the second win for Chevrolet in the first round.
We've had problems in qualifying. We only ran a 6:20, was the best we ran yesterday.
Look at Gary Porter's win over Don Van Loo. That makes 3 wins for Chevrolet in round 1. Now, the best time of round 1 and qualifying would be turned in by Dan Runte in the near lane with the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Always tough to beat. So some highlights from round 1 competition. Earlier, Army Talk with Bigfoot crew chief Jim Kramer.
Jim Kramer with Bigfoot standing with me to try to explain why there's some changes in the suspension. This time last year, everybody thought the cantilever suspension was the way to go. Is that not the case now, Jim?
Well, the verdict is not fully in yet. The cantilever suspension has worked well for us, but we went to the cantilever because we felt we needed more axle drop. We need more droop over these set of cars, get the tires down further, and that entailed having a longer shock absorber. Well, it wasn't a longer shock absorber available, so we gave it the distance to drop through the cantilever arm ratio. Well, now Trailmasters, as our association with them, we kind of co-developed a shock that's 28 inches long. That enables us to have this kind of an axle drop over the first set of cars, which we feel is necessary, and not utilize a cantilever. The cantilever is great. I still think it's a good system, but if we can cut the weight of the apparatus off of the truck's going to go faster. We can take that weight and put it in a more advantageous spot on the truck.
What's the advertising slogan? The best never rest. 2 of the best in the business right here.
Well, as a matter of fact, the one on the left, the heartbeat of America, for his advertising slogans, used to be the crew chief, for the one on the right, bragging rights coming out, Ford Chevy. Chevy takes the win.
Oh, a big win for Dan Patrick. A big win for Chevrolet as he knocks out the fast qualifier Andy Brass in Bigfoot.
You know, it's ironic that Patrick used to be a crew chief in the Bigfoot organization, so nothing else. He's got bragging rights, but the story here is the Chevrolet win over Ford, Gary.
Well, of course, Dan Patrick has built a number of these chassis in competition today. Let's go trackside. Army Armstrong, you're with that victorious team.
Gary, the guy that seems to be the happiest of all, we see him in all types of sports. You're a crew chief this weekend. You're doing an awfully good job.
Thanks a lot, Army. You know, Dan called me up last week. He's really having some bad luck, and he said, won't you come on up there and give us a whirl? We've been trashing all week trying to get this Samson in the field, you know, and we're making all kinds of power. We're just having a hard time getting it hooked. We set up last night and thought about it. We got her going today.
Well, a while ago you said it was 2 o'clock in the morning. We're just congratulating. You know, it's kind of weird. This guy's like a bad penny. He keeps showing up, but he brings good luck with him. Hey, could this be your day?
I hope so. Gene, you know, I've been friends for years, and Gene's an excellent driver, great crew chief. You know, I think having him with me now is just kind of turned everything around. You know, we've got great sponsors behind us now with the Gladiators and the high-tech trailer people. You know, I've been waiting several years to get into this series.
Well, good. We're glad to have you here. I'm going to grab Andy Brass real quick. Andy? Boy, I tell you what, you guys look like two old war horses going at it out there. He was running you hard.
Yeah, he is. You know, like I say, Dan's been in the sport for a long time. He's built some good equipment. Dan's been doing a lot of the chassis. We run one of his chassis, and we knew when he come out with a truck this year, he was going to be a tough competitor just because, like I say, he builds good equipment. He spent some time in trying to get the fuel system worked out. Looked like he got it worked out on there, and the truck's turning in some good times. So we knew he was going to have to run tough to beat him, and we just didn't have it at the very end.
Meanwhile, Runty comes over with the same name we've heard before, Bigfoot, but it's the Power Wheels Bigfoot, sponsored by the people who have these little Power Wheels. You get in discount stores around the country, you know, so your little kid can drive a truck just like this one, but right now, all that goes on the shelf. The first one to see green going to the other end, trying to make it a 3 in a row for Chevrolet. I don't think they're going to do it, Gary.
No, not today.
Whoa,
Power
Chambers
Wheels
in trouble.
Bigfoot. Yeah, Monster Patrol had some trouble on that last landing, got her wove there in the shutdown area. No harm done. But a victory for Ford, Dan Runte, and the Power Wheels Bigfoot, a 5:17. Look once again. Now watch the far lane as the Monster Patrol lands that last time.
You have to hit flush with what you're going after. He did not. He had it left side first.
Here's Dan Runte with Army.
Dan, there's nothing but bad boys left in this thing today.
Yeah, it's rough out there, Army. There's a lot of difference between lanes. Firestone Tire's been helping us a bunch again. We're getting a good bite off the line. We're leaving the line hard. Got to thank the crew, though. They got this motor dialed in. The Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot's really hooking up today. We're excited. I really think we can go all the way.
Enough about the crew. You're doing a good job, too. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Army.
Well, he has been the pleasant surprise here this afternoon in the Chevrolet. Now, he's already knocked his buddy out once, Andy Brass, but Brass comes back as the fast loser. So can Dan do it 2 rounds in a row?
Right now, Dan's playing the role of the great white hope, if you will, because Chevrolet, for the first time, is looking like they're flexing some muscle. The last time they ran, 0.02 of a second determined the winner. That went to the truck on this side. You can make that up on the start line. Brass tries to drill the tree. Does he do it, Gary? You call
It's
it?
so close. No, I think the Chevrolet wins again. And you saw a quick glance there at Gene Patterson. He applauds his driver as Dan Patrick takes the victory. There's a look at Andy Brass, a 5:20, but Brass is eliminated. He will go to the trailer. Look again at how close it is.
Good start. Both vehicles move at the same time, but Patrick able to put the Chevrolet to the ground first to plant more horsepower has helped him right there at the finish line.
There is your margin of victory, and here is your winner. So Dan Patrick will be in the championship against one of these two. There is the Power Wheels Bigfoot with Dan Runte in the near lane, and the far lane, the Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter, another Chevrolet Ford battle.
What is unique here is that this is the first time we've had a Chevrolet in the final this year on the whole tour of the PENDA Points Series. So, like we said earlier, maybe the bow tie boys are dressed up for prom night. They're trying to put 2 of them in the final. We know one's going to be here, but I guarantee you, Dan Runte's going to try to be the bad boy on the block and get a Ford in there, too. He moves quick.
He got a good hole shot, and yes, that was all he needed to take the victory. So Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot with a 5:27. It will be Ford and Chevy in the final. An observation, you made a good one. First time we've had a Chevy in the finals all season long in this PENDA Points Championship. A look again, the whole shot on the left side.
Yeah, but keep an eye on the far side because Porter's right there with him. Look how close these races are. Ladies and gentlemen, these things are coming down to literally thousandths of seconds right there.
Let's go down trackside.
Well, hot day, hot competition, but you're going into the finals.
Yeah, we are, Army. Like I said, that right lane's been hooking up good for us all day. We lost a little time over the first set of cars on that one, made it a little tougher. We lost lane choice on that round also. You know, it's going to make a difference this time.
Patrick wants the right lane. He's going to go there. You're not, so you might as well forget that. How are you going to drive different out of the left lane?
Well, we ran the left lane in qualifying, and I really don't feel like it's that much difference, Army. It's pulling trucks to one side more than the other. You know, that's something you got to watch for coming down in between the cars. But as far as driving it, the way Patrick's running the right lane, we're going to have to run it as hard as we can.
Every win has come from the right lane, and Patrick will have the right lane for the championship.
You're in the final. That's what it's all about. Can you take the first win?
Bigfoot earlier, we got some thoughts from Army Armstrong on the finals.
Gary, there's always a story within a story. The big story today is a guy named Gene Patterson. He's not even driving a truck. He's the crew chief on the Samson truck. However, this time last year, Gene Patterson was driving the Bigfoot truck that the truck he's crewing against is going against in the final. You talk about a guy that may have mixed emotions. Let's keep an eye on Patterson and see how this thing goes down. Plus, it's the first time we had a Chevrolet in a final in a long time. The old Chevrolet and Ford battle going to the final at Bloomsburg. This is what the sport is all about, Gary.
Well, down deep inside, he may have some mixed emotions, but outside, he's going to be pulling for the bow tie Chevrolet, and there's a look at Dan Patrick. As we mentioned earlier, Dan has built a number of the chassis in competition here this weekend, and he will stage the Chevrolet against the Power Wheels Bigfoot, the Far Lane, the Ford of Dan Runte, and look at this, the crew chiefs converse.
An interesting point, though, is the right lane. You talked about a moment ago, all the winds have come out of the right lane. Quicker time in the previous line gives you lane choice. That puts the Chevrolet over there. We may have our first Chevrolet winner, Gary.
We do, Dan Patrick. Look at the jubilation there by Gene Patterson as the Chevrolet, the bow tie brigade, takes the win. It's been a long time since we've said that.
I guarantee you, Dan Patrick is pumped because in an earlier interview, he himself said this PENDA Point Series is the best monster truck series in the world, and to win it, he has got to be grinning from ear to ear. I bet he looks like a Cheshire cat back in the pit area.
Well, there's a look at the Power Wheels Bigfoot headed back to the pit area. One more look coming right at you. The wind comes in the left lane, and there is the margin of victory. Oh, look at the air coming off that second jump for Dan Patrick as he takes the victory here in Bloomsburg.
Place to be for monster truck fans this year again. Back to you, Gary.
Army with some highlights of round one. Here's a look at that first monster truck in the fours. Dan Patrick in the Chevy Samson, sponsored by American Gladiator. Now watch on the run. Patrick had a very rough landing, knocking off the rear tire.
Pennsylvania.
In qualifying, Andy Brass. Now, Andy Brass, normally the first or second fastest in qualifying. Today, he was the sixth fastest. Had some trouble in qualifying.
The problem, as you can see, it was in the chassis. The horsepower was there. The truck just wasn't handling right. It wasn't going where he was pointing it.
We're ready now for round two competition. The fast qualifier, Dan Runte, prepares to battle Gary Porter. Now we'll show you how Porter got to round two.
Won the battle, but he may have lost the war because he lost lane choice. This right lane is almost mystic about how much horsepower it'll hold. And you watch, everybody gets quick qualifying time. I'm predicting it's going to go the right side today.
Right lane belongs to Runte. Left lane, far lane. He's in trouble. Gary Porter. Oh, he hit that water barrier over there.
Yeah, the Yodoc barrier system comes in handy. They're designed right down the road from here. So if you're going to test one, I guess this is the place to do it.
Well, you can see the damage despite the Hydra barrier. You can see the damage to the front of the Carolina Crusher. The front was crushed that time. Now watch again, the right side of your screen.
The problem is in the lane. Andy Brass had trouble over there. Gary is too. See, the trucks are not coming down straight. They're coming down goofy. Then they hit water barriers.
That'd really be goofy.
Yeah.
You get wet and goofy.
8 pounds per gallon. That's a couple thousand pounds he's tagging there, but the barrier did exactly what it was supposed to do. It absorbed the energy, and if it'll absorb the energy of a 10,000-pound monster truck, they got to work for highways.
Yeah, it stopped just on a
turned
dot.
as bad as it did. I knew there was no use trying to get it back. You know, I just slammed on the brakes. I seen the pole coming up, you know, and I tried to turn away from it, and it surprised me how hard those water barriers are.
As we take a look at the damage, let us also mention Dan Runte turned in a 5.03 in that run. As we look at his teammate, there's Andy Brass in Bigfoot, and Brass will go up against the far lane Overkill with Kirk Dabney.
Now, Dabney's teamed up with Marty Garza. Garza's out of the great state of Texas. He brings some knowledge from Dad's side. Dabney comes from Indiana. He's a Hoosier. He brings some knowledge there, and together, they're going to be players before this year's over. They run the mid-motor setup. They run a new concept in suspension. They seem to be able to put horsepower down, but they're in the bad lane. Whoa!
Oh, but he pulls off the victory.
Made a fool out of me.
Well, he was a faster qualifier than Andy Brass, but Brass, because of the last round, had lane choice. But Overkill takes the victory. Andy Brass almost crashed there in the shutdown area.
Yeah, but the big story is what happened in No Man's Land. First jump okay, No Man's Land, our groundhog camera show you he was crooked at that last jump, Gary.
Kirk Dabney wins it. He's with Army.
Dr. Scholl's special. You know why? 3 of the 4 trucks got foot in the name.
So you get paid the big money for coming up with lines like that. Well, of course, you have this analytical expertise because you can tell us why that left lane has been so bad. All the winds coming from the right lane today. Army earlier looked at the left lane.
Gary, what we're looking at here is the starting line in the left lane of Bloomsburg. Look how deep they've dug down in the track. This is about an 8 or 9 inch depth on the right side of the passenger side of the truck. Now, come over here with me. On the driver's side of the truck, right here, it's only about 3 or 4 inches that's been dug up. So what that does is basically set the chassis. We may have found out why these guys are having trouble with this lane on the track. They're actually setting a little bit cockeyed on the starting line, so when they hit the first jump, it throws the truck out of kilter, and they never have a chance to recover it. Back to you, Gary.
In this sport, they want weight transfer front to back, but not side to side. We prepare now for a Bigfoot shootout.
Couple of vehicles that are identical. Firestone, Firestone.
Ford, Ford.
Supercharged by BDS. Keep going.
What you're saying is these trucks are almost identical.
Yeah, if you're in the decal business, you got all kind of decals out there right now. All the sponsors represented on the side of these guys. And, you know, they do bring a lot of exposure to their national sponsors, and that's what it's all about. Looky here.
Near lane. Oh, Runte really drilled Brass. He got the whole shot, and it was all Dan Runte.
Dan Runte caught a Brass asleep at the wheel.
Boy, that's something you just don't see.
No, well, the ET wasn't there either, a 560, so.
Take a look again, but the left side there, lane nearest the camera, and a big hole shot, a big margin right there for Dan Runte. And here is Dan Runte with Army Armstrong.
Looks like a real hard race between you and Andy, but it looked like he had some kind of a problem on the starting line. Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't. He didn't say anything. We all got radio communications. He didn't say anything on the line. It appears he lost his brakes on the line, so he had to go up to neutral to stay at the line without falling through into the red light beam. It was real tough. I figured he'd be more of a run than that, but with the problem like that, you can't do anything but what he did.
Well, Kirk Dabney is first. We are now set for the finals. Fred Schaefer and Dan Runte. There is Runte to your right, Fred Schaefer on the left. It's Ford against Dodge. No Chevrolet today. Schaefer has lane choice. He's in the right lane, putting Dan Runte over on the far side. And earlier, Army asked Runte about that lane.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was coming, Army. Walk out here and look, and that right side's a little better. We looked at the left lane, Jim and I did. Actually, the left lane doesn't look as bad as I thought it did. I think we can come out here and run a good race in that lane. We'll just have to wait and see what it boils down to.
Okay, it's final run of the weekend. You got all week to put it back together. Does that change your mindset? We have a little bit of kamikaze in here right now.
Yeah, we sure do, Army. It's like Jim and I were just talking about. He said, unless if you're really crooked and really out of shape, he said, you're going to have to stab this thing for all it's worth.
All right, very simple strategy. Hammer down. In the near lane, nearest to you right now, Fred Schaefer.
We're talking the Dodge Ford, but you also got Firestone and Goodyear. You got bragging rights, sponsors' names on the sides of the vehicle. They're both going to the lanes.
All right, Fred Schaefer near, Dan Runte the far lane. This is for, as they say, all the marbles here in Bloomsburg.
They leave together, first jump together, no man's
Looks
land,
like
Gary.
the Ford.
Yeah.
The Ford, Dan Runte in the far lane. Dan Runte takes the victory. Fred Schaefer at a 5.067, but look at Runte, 4.96.
The quickest ever, a 4.96 for the Bigfoot Power Wheels team. Dan Runte doing the driving in the final on a beautiful picture-perfect run. Both drivers, nothing to be ashamed of here. This is a clean race.
And there is the margin of victory. As we go down trackside, Army.
The fastest monster truck run in the history of the sport.
4.967. Dan Patrick was the first to go into the Ford today with a Chevrolet, but you guys with the Fords came back and went, that's the quickest ever.
We've been shooting for Fords all weekend, Army. I don't know what to say, but got to thank the great crew we got, Bob and Ford Motor Company, for letting me be out here. I love it.
I'll tell you what, you're doing a fine job. You're an awfully good driver when you came into the thing. Jim, come over here real quick. You got to be proud of this kid. You guys are the quickest in the world now.
He's coming on. I tell you what, we talked about it. He knew what he had to do. And the truck, we kept getting a little more. We're squeezing the truck tight. I got to admit that. But this Ford's coming on. The Firestone's bit. Fastest time, fastest monster truck ever. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Hey, if I was going to buy a pickup truck tomorrow, what kind should it be?
Better go buy a Ford.
496, Bob.
All right, bud.
You could hear the emotion in Dan Runte's voice. As Runte closes just a bit, he's second in the points. Brass continues to lead, then it's Schaefer, Paul Schaefer, and Kirk Dabney.
Back to you, Gary.
Well, Army, taking a look at some highlights now. Andy Brass showed us in qualifying that the right lane was indeed the place to be. Now, last year it was just the exact opposite, with virtually every win coming from the left lane. But as you indicated tonight, the right lane is the place to run. There's a look at the Overkill truck. The Overkill is Kirk Dabney. He came to this race 4th place in the PENDA Points Series. Andy Brass would have to back up that qualifying run. Best time of round 1, and he did so in this win over Kirk Dabney. There's a time at 5:10. Your verbiage, goo. It's not a tacky track, it's gooey. As we take a look at the matchup here with Ray Porkowski, the far lane, Andy Brass, the near lane. Dodge against Ford. This is round 2 action from Springfield, Missouri. And you can see how moist that track is there in the staging area. It's going to be all Andy Brass. The Bigfoot Ford takes the victory. Andy Brass with a ET of 5.21. The time for Ray Porkowski was a 5:70. So the Dodge will have to hang on. That probably will not be the fast loser. The fast loser comes back, but that won't be fast enough to get him on.
No, that left lane, boy, it's a kiss of death tonight for everybody.
We take a look there at Colt Cobra out of Colorado in the snakebite truck. He once again will be in that far lane. Now this is in round 1. He took out Don Van Loo, and there's the action from round 1. It was all snakebite.
You know, there's so many guys that compete for the top 12 positions to get into this thing, and we just pick them up on TV in the second round, but you don't get to see Van Loo a lot. As Dan Runte comes up, he'll be driving the Bigfoot Power Wheel vehicle. You don't get to see the Hall brothers or Pam Botter either, but these are good monster truck racers. They're just having trouble getting past the first round. They're doing great by qualifying, but getting past the first round into the TV round, they all want to do that.
Well, a pair of Fords right here. The Power Wheels Bigfoot, the nearest lane to the camera, and that's the lane everybody wants to be in. So let's see what happens here. Colt Cobra in snakebite in the far lane, a pair of Fords.
Well, if any animal in the world is going to like gooey, slimy weather, it's got to be a snake. Let's see if he can do it. Hey, he's out on him.
Oh, he had a good hole shot. Yeah, well, I don't know. It looked like Runte got him at the very end by perhaps a headlight. 5:38. 5:38 for Dan Runte to a 5:46. Indeed, the snakebite had the hole shot. But somehow that Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot got down in no man's land, hooked up the horsepower, and made a run at him.
Snakebite moves on him and hangs just a little bit. Right there is what happened. He hung just a little bit. Dan Runte got down, planted the horsepower, and went on to win.
So Dan Runte takes the victory, and we're going to take the unique look from our crush cam as Runte goes right overhead, as he will take the victory, and Colt Cobra will have to hang around to see if he's the fast loser.
Tell you what, right lane is good, left lane's bad. Simple as that.
Yeah, actually, Army, that pass there, I was just explaining to Gary, the crew chief here, didn't feel like it was hooking up as hard as it did the pass before. It turned in a real close time to the pass we made before, but it just seems like that lane's starting to go away too. I'm not sure what we're going to do here in the next round.
We had the same scenario at Bloomsburg, and one guy came out and won the whole thing. That was you out of the lane that nobody else could win out of. Could that be the scenario here tonight? That left lane could be the lane to be in the final?
It could very well be, Army. You know, like I said, it just seems like it's a little slower off the line. The Ford Bigfoot Power Wheels is really doing a good job. I mean, it's dialed into the track like this. It's working well. It just seems like it's not pulling as hard, and it may be the lane to be in.
And that could be the guy to beat this evening, Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Well, coming up now, welcome back to Springfield. Gary Lee along with Army Armstrong. We are ready for semifinal action as the matchups begin here under the stars. We had rain earlier. It's dried out, but still very humid here in Springfield. There's a look at Andy Brass in Bigfoot, the Bigfoot Cruiser. And on the far side of Andy will be Colt Cobra in the snakebite Ford.
Both of these vehicles are running the very same motor, same combinations and everything. The horsepower is not the big question tonight. Like you said, the The air's good. I mean, it's cool. The humidity's up. The motors are making buku horsepower. It's just getting it to stick to the ground.
Well, it's a trade-off because with this high humidity, we also have a very moist track. So what they gain in horsepower, they lose in track conditions.
Exactly.
So
And
a
believe
pair
me,
of Fords.
Yeah, these guys are making a ton of horsepower. See, both of them slipped just a little bit on the line.
Andy Brass takes the victory. He'll go at the championship round. But you're right, both guys spinning their wheels at the starting line. Andy Brass, a 5:43. We can see the reflection in the times. The times have slowed down since they qualified earlier.
But everybody's time is slowing down the same amount, so that tells us it has to be the physical. Look how wet the front tires are, see? It's the physical condition of the track they're running on.
Yeah, you can see the mud there on the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Dan Runte is staging that Ford, and in the near lane will be the Barefoot Dodge of Fred Schaefer. First, before we run these two guys off, let's go back trackside and talk to Andy Brass.
Andy, no easy task putting the snake truck away.
No, it ain't. You know, Snake's always been a good runner, but the Ford Bigfoot's been doing us a good job tonight. You know, John Kazi, he's been doing us real well running. Gary Saline's been tuning the motor on the truck here. He's been pressing on her a little bit, but that's what it's going to be taking this year. You know, everybody's running real close or running real hard, and you're just going to have to be leaning on these trucks. And he's done a real well job of tuning my truck for me, and it's been doing a good job of running, and all I got to do is drive it.
Back to the starting line earlier, and this is now Fred Schaefer, the near lane, the big Dodge against the Ford of Dan Runte in the far lane for the right to meet Andy Brass for the championship here in Springfield. As they stage, who's it going to be?
Well, I tell you, you can cut the drama out there with a knife.
Again, both very slow off the
Schaefer's
line.
in trouble, Gary.
Now, Fred Schaefer had a very poor run as Dan Runte advances to the championship round at 5:43, but not a good run for Fred Schaefer. He had trouble with that truck. He got off to the right. And there he sits down there in the shutoff area. So obviously a problem with that particular. As we take a look again from the crush cam.
Yeah, but the word we're going to get is when Fred finished this run, he's already knocked out one crush cam this year. This was the second.
Well, he's taking out his anger on the crush cam as he gets eliminated from competition.
You just put the big Dodge on the trailer and didn't blink an eye about it. You seem to have a lot of confidence right now.
Actually, the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot's really running well. Like I said before, Army, it's hooking up. Firestone tires is really, they're working in the mud out here. I mean, I gotta give them credit. It's been real lane choice here tonight. And Fred, of course, came into this with the faster time, had lane choice, pushed me over there in that other lane. You know, we talked about that, and you know, it was tough. We talked about it amongst the crew and everybody else, and it was just tough going, but we made it over there in that other lane, and we figured we could.
Well, Dan, of course, proves again he's one tough Ford competitor, but there was some Andy Brass, and Bigfoot goes up against his teammate, Dan Runte, in the Power Wheels Bigfoot, and earlier, Army caught up with him.
For the second week in a row, there's only been one truck that can figure out how to win in a bad lane. He's going to the final. Dan Runte, how do you do it when nobody else can?
Actually, Army, that lane has got better all night. It's just, it's not a choice that I want to go over in that lane, but I don't know, it's something that we're going to have to try and see if we can get the truck to hook up. Like I say, it's been hooking up and running real straight. I think we can go over there and be real confident for it to win.
Well, he's always confident in his equipment when you're racing with Bigfoot.
One thing for sure, Ford will win. It's just a question of which Ford.
Well, this is going to be a tough one to pick because we have seen Dan Runte really come on this season. He is second in the PENDA points right now, but he's certainly closing the gap down on Andy.
He's the kind of guy, if he's a sprint car driver, he'll be trying the lane that nobody else tries. And it's worked for him all year long, so you don't mess with success. You know, if
everybody else is running the cush, he's going to go down the inside and try the pole.
Or if they're on the bottom, he'll run up top. But tonight, he just got to go to the other end.
Yeah, he has no choice but to take that left lane because Andy Brass had no choice. He takes the right. Look at him spin the tires.
A lot of wheel slippage on the starting line.
And it is. And, oh! Was Brass disqualified?
I don't know. The rules say those front two tires must hit the object they're jumping.
Apparently not. 5:36. They give Andy Brass the 5:36. Dan Runte the 5:56. So Andy Brass wins it. There was some question there at the finish if Andy Brass had made a legal pass. Watch again. Watch the left side of your screen and watch the far side. Watch the far tires.
They have to make contact. Yeah, they hit something. Look how far over he went.
Man, he's talking about high-siding a truck.
but that puts him in the national points lead. That battle, we completely forgot about that. Here's another shot of it. He was almost out of the view of the camera, Gary.
Looking at the current points, 720, the margin for Andy Brass over Runte, then it's Schaefer, Dabney, and Colt Cobra, and here's your winner.
Gary, I tell you what, the big story could be right here on his license plate. Andy Brass could have the #1 truck this year. Very honestly, you're just beating up on these guys.
Well, we've been doing a pretty good job with the truck this year. You know, we come out with this truck. This is the old Wildfoot truck, so we're running the same truck as what we won the points championship with last year. So I feel we got just a little bit of an edge. You know, we come out here with an older truck. I know the gearing to use in the truck. The motors are the same. You know, the John Kazi-Hemi's been doing us a real well job. You know, we just got our pill system, the air meters and stuff, you know, we've been using. We got all the readings from last year, so I can pretty well dial the truck in right off the bat. I don't got to sit out here and make all my runs and try to get the truck dialed in. So it works out pretty well for us.
The third PENDA Points Series win. Want to take you back now to qualifying to show you the fastest pass ever in monster truck competition. This is qualifying Andy Brass with a 4.93.
The previous quick was a 4.96 set by the other Bigfoot truck of Runte, but Andy Brass came out and laid the gauntlet down with a 93.
And Andy Brass would follow that up with the best time of round 1, punching out the Dodge Express of Ray Porkowski. Andy's run was a 5.15. So this, once again, a highlight from round 1 competition. Also in round 1 was Colt Cobra taking on Mark Hall in the Executioner. And watch this wild finish by Hall.
Mark Hall is one of the guys that's trying to get a luck streak going for him, and it was not to be at this event. He was all over the shutdown area. Should have gone into the next round. Not to be the case. But also in that round, Gary
Wiggins in the Carolina Crusher was also a DQ as he goes out of bounds.
So all of a sudden, the story of the night is you don't want to go on the left side of this racetrack.
Large tires.
Well, I tell you what, there is a common thread running through all of motorsports. A lot of technology crossing from one type of racing to another.
Well, you're exactly right there.
There's a look at Andy Brass, the Bigfoot Cruiser. Nearest the camera, the far lane, overkill, Kirk Dabney.
Remember the discussion in the pit area? Nobody wants the left lane. Brass, quick time. Dabney ran him tough for the first half. He runs him all the way out the end, Gary. Who won it?
Well, Andy Brass takes the victory. His clocking is 5:11 ET. Kirk Dabney is 5:36. And there is a look at Bigfoot going away from you.
Yeah, this is a view we haven't seen before. Look what happens in no man's land. He's still on the throttle, picking up all kind of dust, and then, of course, he's going to fly right over the top of us.
Good shot from the crush cam.
Yeah.
There is a look at Sampson. And pulling right into view is Colt Cobra. That's the Snakebite Ford. So it's Ford against Chevrolet.
That was the camera angle known as Snaggletooth when Cobra came into view there.
There's Colt, and there's Dan Patrick, who had that wild ride earlier this evening when he really uncorked the horsepower.
Boy, he was skyrocketing. And dapper-looking young man he is with his preppy glasses. But right now, the glasses are off, the helmet's on, and he's going Ford hunting.
Yeah, Snake has that face that only a mother could love.
Gene Patterson out of the driver's seat into the crew chief position. He's watching over Dan Patrick's operation. It's made him a winner one time this year. It's a bad lane. Let's see if they maybe figure something out. A lot of air. Chassis change didn't work for the Chevy. He's coming across track.
Trouble. Dan Patrick, I think, was DQ'd. Snakebite, Colt Cobra, 5:18 will advance. And Dan Patrick was in trouble right off the start.
Boy, Gene Patterson, the crew chief, he'll be optimistic about it. He'll say, well, we finished second.
Yeah, but as they say, second is the first loser.
Yeah, but Gary, when there's only 2 racing, the guy that wins finishes next to last, right?
You do have a way of putting a slant on it, Army.
You got to be an optimist if you're going to be in motorsports. You better be optimistic.
Coming right at you, Sampson gets in trouble right here. Veers off to the right, and he is disqualified. Let's go down trackside now and hear from a disappointed Dan Patrick. Fastest qualifier here this evening in barefoot, the Dodge against the second fast qualifier, Dan Runte in the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot.
And one of the big stories all year long has been Fred Schaefer not being able to get dialed in. Other side of the coin, Dan Runte running smooth as silk all year long. This kid on every pass is becoming smoother and better. Fred Schaefer been around a long time, and these young kids are drawing him in. They're playing hardball with him. They're beating up on him, and I know he doesn't like it.
Dan Runte is presently second in the PENDA Point Series championship behind his teammate Andy Brass. And Fred Schaefer's been playing catch-up so far this season. It looks like Runte by a wheel.
Yeah, but I tell you what, he was airing it out on the other end. Schaefer was pulling him back.
5:26 for Runte. Now remember, the fast loser, as we told you, will come back. There's Fred Schaefer's 5:31. That's a good run.
Yeah.
We can see Fred come back.
I think that'll get him back in. Watch Runte from the end zone, if you will. Camera, it yaws on him here real quick. Watch this. See, it'll pitch and then yaw on him.
Well, he takes the victory. He'll come back for more competition. Let's go trackside and hear from Dan Runte.
Dan, it looked awful wild out there.
Yeah, it was, Army. The truck's hooking up off the line a little different than it has in the previous runs. It's a little tougher driving track now. You got to drive back that second set of cars. Ford Power Wheels, Bigfoot's doing a good job, and I do hear we just dogged the Dodge.
Barefoot. A thunder
Once
drag.
again, the Chevrolets are not able to flex their muscles and get past the second round of competition here. This is a story within a story. All the manufacturers involved here, you're looking at Dodge, boy, right over there. The Barefoot, Fred Schaefer, all the Dodge troops are putting their hopes with him. Meanwhile, Andy Brass, the Bigfoot team, you know they got to represent the Blue Oval bunch with Ford. PENDA Liner's putting up the money to see who's got the best monster truck in the world.
Well, right now, Brass is leading the PENDA Point Series, whereas Fred Schaefer has been playing catch-up. Now, if he could knock Brass out right here, go a long way in helping his cause.
Well, like I say, it add points to his side of the ledger, but take them away from Brass. It's going to be tough to do. I'll be real honest with you. Schaefer's in a lane that is least desirable. How you like the way I put that?
Yeah, that was very, very politically correct on your part, as Andy Brass takes the victory, and his clocking is a 5.23. Looks like the track has slowed down just a little bit, of 5.58 for Fred Schaefer. Well, it looks like it's slowed down during the course of the evening.
It has, but it's slowing down the same for everybody. So, you know, everybody's just through osmosis.
But you're right, everybody is slowing down.
Yeah, everybody's going down a tenth.
Andy Brass coming right at you from the end zone camera. Look at the altitude. Look at the air. Can you imagine what that landing feels like inside the cockpit?
I can tell you exactly. The impact is equivalent to a 30-mile-an-hour head-on collision. They've run tests on that. And the impact each driver endures when they land is equivalent to a 30-mile-an-hour head-on collision. Now, these guys do this about 6 or 7 times a night. You've got to be an athlete to drive one of these trucks. I don't care what anybody says.
So 6 times a night would be a 180-mile-an-hour collision. No.
Well,
don't even figure it out.
First time I did it, I'd learned my lesson and let you drive the truck the next time.
The Power Wheels Bigfoot against the Ford Snakebite. Colt Cobra, there's a look at Snakebite, and there's a look at Dan Runte. Runte was the second fastest qualifier this evening.
What you're looking at is a toy manufacturer's dream come true. Every little boy in America likes Bigfoot, or they like Colt Cobra with the Snakebite. So
Snakebite was the third fast qualifier, so this is a real good matchup right here. Ford against Ford. It's Snakebite. Snakebite takes him in that favorable lane. Snakebite, Colt Cobra, a 5.16. I believe that was faster than what Andy Brass just turned in Bigfoot.
That was, and Power was one at 31, but a 16 is quick.
And here is Andy Brass.
I tell you what, Andy, your championship is looking a lot better right now because you just put the Dodge out, and the Bigfoot Power Wheel just went out by Snakebite. That's got to help you with the points deal.
Yes, it does. You know, we've been kind of watching it. It's been a tough season, you know, and everybody's running so hard this year and so close that it's going to be anybody's game. And these guys are getting to the finals, you know, and you're just praying that you can knock them out early. But thanks to everybody like Ford, Firestone, Built, BDS, you know, Trailmaster, everybody that sponsors us. You know, we got a good combination here. The truck's working good for us, and we're going to put her in the first place.
So Andy Brass will go for 2 in a row here in Springfield as he continues to lead the PENDA point standings. Some maintenance going on now between rounds on the truck that will be in the championship shootout. That is the Snakebite Ford of Colt Cobra. Just some regular between round maintenance.
Yeah, I tell you what, Gary, it may look like between round maintenance, but that old boy is hammering and nailing. He's in the final. He wants to win.
And here is how he got to the final. Once again, a replay as Colt Cobra knocks out Dan Runte by that margin right there.
Who gets lane choice in the final? Do you know what the times are, Gary?
I think Colt Cobra will have lane choice. And right now, let's go trackside and visit with Colt Cobra.
Colt, let me get in here real quick. You've said for a long time you can handle the Bigfoot truck. You're going to get your shot at him.
That's right. Like I said, we come out here earlier this year. Our times weren't as as low as we'd like them to be. We did some changes to the truck. We came here to Springfield, done good here every year. We're really pumped up about it going into the final against Bigfoot here. We pulled lane choice on him. Like I said earlier, it means a lot. I think we have that edge, and the snake running the way it is tonight, hopefully we'll pull out a win here again.
Well, beating him's one thing, but beating him in his own home state, that's got to make you real happy.
Oh, it always does. I'll beat him anywhere, but at home it always counts a little bit more.
So lane choice for Colt Cobra and with the monsters. Snake bite, as we told you, will have lane choice. Colt Cobra will put Andy Brass over in the left lane where he has yet to run tonight. And prior to going to the lane, Army asked Mr. Brass about that.
We've been watching the left lane. The left lane's been coming around, you know. We looked at it earlier. They had a lump in the first lane. It was sending everybody over the first set of cars. We're not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to go over there and run my run like I would run it over here in the right lane. And I'm not going to worry about the lane change and hope we can just pull it down through there again like we did a while ago.
Well, there's a tight shot of Andy Brass, and there is the nose of Snakebite as they stage here for the championship. Crew chief looks on. His wife, a little nervous back there in the staging area.
But Andy Brass, the crew, did make a change in the truck. They made a gear change. He's out on it. Oh, half track. Something goes away.
Snakebite. Snakebite.
Boy, Mrs. Brass, a tough break. Snakebite takes a win with a 5.18, but Andy Brass was reading him the riot act, so something went away at about half track.
Yeah, that was mechanical because Andy was right there until something happened, as you say, Army, half track, and Colt Cobra takes the win. So what appeared to be a good opportunity for Andy Brass to gain some ground on Dan Runty, his teammate in the point standings, went awry because of some mechanical problems.
Exactly right. Well, you know, this is racing. That's what it's all about. We're not taking anything away from the old Snakebite crew. He said he was going to drill him. He did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Looking right at you. Let's go to Victory Lane. Army with your winner.
Yeah. Well, dreams come true, partner. You got a bunch of fans here now.
That's right. Springfield's always been good to us. We came back here again tonight. Cool air came out. Truck started running faster. We ran consistent all night. This truck's definitely a winner. You saw it here tonight. We're going right to the top.
Talk about being pumped up. There's the sign of the snake, the #1 side. There's your champion. As we'll take a look now at the point standings. Waypoint. We're about ready for action in round 2, so let's go track side to Army Armstrong.
Gary, right now we are just a little bit past halfway in the season. Matter of fact, just one race past halfway. We're not going to concede a championship to anybody, but this guy right here, Andy Brass from Bob Chandler's foot, 2 years in a row national champ, current national points leader. Watch him, because what's happening here is this team of Bob Chandler's, the Bigfoot Cruiser, the blue truck, and the Bigfoot Power Wheels team of Dan Runty are comparing information. Man, they're just like two computers that every time they make a run, they spit out info that the other team can use. None of the other teams are doing that. They're all trying to do it privateer style, and it's just not going to work. What's going to happen, I don't care if you drive a Dodge or a Chevrolet, you better get with the guy next to you and take your knowledge to him, let him give his knowledge to you, and trying to beat these guys. But the way things stand right now, the Blue Oval bunch are the bad boys of the sport, and they're not taking any prisoners. They're going for the 3rd World Championship. Back to you, Gary.
Army, as we mentioned, we're getting ready for round 2 competition, but first let's take you back and show you some highlights from round 1. Dan Runty was the quick qualifier. Now, he got a bye run in round 1, and he steps up to better his qualifying pass by a full 1/10 of a second, 5.05.
Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher, no match for the Mountain Motor Ford.
Andy Brass, the 4th fast qualifier in Bigfoot, against the young lady Pam Botters in the Boogie Van, and this was Andy Brass. Takes that victory with a 5.06.
Also, Gary, right now, going into the 2nd round, the only hope, the great red hope, if you will, for the Dodge team is Ray Perkowski, as Fred Schaefer was eliminated earlier in round 1 competition. So if you pull for Dodge, you're pulling against this guy. Dan Runty will be in the other lane from that Dodge in that Ford Power Wheels.
And there's a look at Ray out of St. Louis. So both these trucks come out of the St. Louis area. The Bigfoot Power Wheels version. The fast qualifier here this afternoon with Dan Runty. He'll be in the lane closest to our camera shot right there. Ray Porkowski in the Dodge. So it's Dodge against Ford here in round 2.
Both trucks working a line. Dan Runty is dead on that tree. Truck, that's just almost a perfect run. Whoa, Perkowski's having some trouble.
Oh, yes, some major problems as he takes down the fence. You can see the damage under the truck. He lost some suspension there.
The rear end went away on that truck is what caused the problem. He did a yeoman's job of keeping it at least right side up. Something broke on that truck in the back. Let's see if we can see on the replay.
On the right side of your screen, watch Ray Porkowski.
Okay, he lays it down in no man's land when it,
Right
there
there.
it broke. Yeah, broke before the second jump. See the rear steer? Right now, he's just along for the ride. Hello, Vince.
That fence is taking him, continues to cruise in the lead of the PENDA Points Championship. Kirk Dabney comes out of Columbia City, Indiana, the driver of the Ford Overkill.
Dabney is an awfully good driver. He's always dealt with equipment that wasn't really up to spec. On the other side of the ledger, Andy Brass, class equipment all the way through. He also a good driver.
Oh, Brass just does ease that fender by ever so close, but Brass wins it in the cruiser at 5:16. So Andy Brass continues to head toward another world championship. There's Kirk Dabney's 5.28. Now remember, the fast loser from this round will come back, so Dabney could stand a chance of seeing more action this afternoon.
You're exactly right, and that's one of the things I really like about the sport. They try to keep side-by-side racing. We've got a good race right here. Like I say, Dabney left on him, but the suspension that Fred Schaefer alluded to a little bit earlier seems to be sticking the horsepower to the ground a little bit better, a little bit quicker for the big blue oval bunch.
Coming up next in the far lane, that's the Monster Patrol with Paul Schaefer, and the near lane, as we take a look at Schaefer there from Portage, Indiana, the Monster Patrol. The near lane will be Colt Cobra, the menacing one from Cobra Creek, Colorado in Snakebite. That's the Ford.
Well, Colt Cobra knows what he has to do is get past his Chevrolet, and the Chevrolet knows he's got an uphill battle. Paul Schaefer has proven himself in the sport of mud racing, a past world champion. Right now comes out to go monster truck racing with no wing on the far side. Both of them are in trouble.
Pulls off. This could be a mistake. Now let's watch Paul. Paul gets his going again, continues on. Colt will be disqualified, and Paul could win this one with the slowest winning time in the history of monster truck racing.
Yeah, but Gary, when you go to the bank on Monday morning, they don't care how fast or how slow it was. They just want to make sure the money was good.
Well, the money was good, but it's a 1675 for the Monster Patrol, and Colt Cobra was DQ'd. Can do new life for Barefoot. It will be Ford against Dodge and Ford against Chevy. Let's quickly go down to Army. Is there a problem with Barefoot?
I tell you what, Gary, the drama still builds. Even when Fred went to the starting line, the motor leaned out. They actually checked the kill switch, but when they checked the kill switch and went to start up again, it wouldn't start. That's why the drama was building, because the crew members had to come out, prime the engine, get him going again. Now, let's go racing.
Well, you have to wonder. Fred gets a second chance. They have some trouble getting that Dodge fired. But here it is. There's a good look at the Barefoot Dodge. Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois.
The big question, can that big Dodge who just got fired be like the Phoenix and come back to win this thing?
Come back from the ashes of defeat. We'll find out. Dan Runte staging the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He is second in the PENDA Point Series right now behind his teammate Andy Brass.
Every win today has come out of the lane that Runte's in right now. Schaefer has got to throw caution to the wind and go after this kid. It's not going to work here.
Nope, Runte takes this one again in that near lane. Runte takes the victory. He goes on to the championship round, a 5:11. And of course, Dan was the fast qualifier earlier today. So Runte wins that one with the 5:11 ET.
And the Dodge boys are still looking for whatever they lost from last year. They just can't put their finger on it, Gary.
Well, that has to be so frustrating because Fred was so competitive last year. We really thought that this would be the year for Dodge.
And it's not in the engine or the drivetrain compartment. It's got to be suspension. It's just the chassis. You know, I don't know what to tell you. He just lost it.
Looking again, coming right at you from the crash cam. Here they are, and Runte goes right overhead. Duck! As the Ford knocks the Dodge from competition. So let's take this opportunity now to go down trackside as we take a look at Bigfoot starting to stage. Let's go trackside to Army Armstrong.
Dan, it was really weird when you went out there. A lot of changes going on. Did it bother you, the fact that Fred was coming out next to you?
Yeah, Army, you got to look at it because Fred's always tough no matter what happens. You know, he come back and he'll run a good time even if it is a bad lane. Fred's an old competitor. He's been at it a lot longer than I have with Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot. With Firestone behind us, we just walked the dog.
That's what you call it, walking the dog, Army.
I'll tell you what, that dog was howling. It'll hunt today.
There's a look at Monster Patrol. There's a look at Bigfoot. Now, earlier, Army, you said all the wins had come from that near lane, the right lane. Now, keep in mind, for all intent and purposes, you're right, but that freak victory for Monster Patrol when he was just crawling across the finish line and Snakebite was DQ'd.
Okay, Gary, I mean, all the racing wins came out of the right lane.
All
Let's
right,
see if
well,
we can
you're
do it
right.
again.
Technically, you're right.
Now,
Just
folks,
wanted to clarify that.
Gary just trying to protect you folks back home right now. Bigfoot is trying to put that Chevy on the trailer.
Bingo!
No problem. Bigfoot does exactly that, so it's Ford and Ford in the finals. Bigfoot Cruiser a 5:13. Now remember, Runty ran a 5:11, so it's almost a toss-up. There's Monster Patrol, and Monster Patrol's time was a 5:86.
Boy, the lane is playing havoc. Who's going to get the bad lane in the final? That's going to be the big question. Replay comes up showing you Andy Brass sits in the middle. He's the gentle giant of this sport. Believe me, he is a driver's driver.
Well, it looks like Runty may have lane choice. He ran a 5:11 to the 5:13. So let's go down now and talk to Andy Brass.
Andy, I tell you what, this thing just keeps getting more and more exciting all the time. A Chevrolet did get to you in that round, but couldn't hold you off.
Yeah, it did. You know, we come away with the round there in the wind. You know, we was just trying to pull out a fast time to get us a lane choice, but I don't think we was able to do it this round. So we're just going to probably end up and get stuck in the other lane and just give it the best we got.
Here in Springfield, and these guys are letting it all hang out. And speaking of putting it on kill, the big boys, the pros, the monsters are set up for their final challenge.
Runty and Brass sounds like a accounting firm on Wall Street. That's not the case today. They're two bad boys in the blue oval bunch Ford. Ford making a final for I don't know how many times this year. They are really, for such thing as a manufacturer dominating a sport, Ford has done it this year in this circuit, Gary.
Yeah, and it's somewhat of a surprise because last year at this time, we really thought that Fred Schaefer would be a guy to reckon with in the Dodge.
And the only person to break the Ford stranglehold on it was a Chevrolet. So, you know, this sport is going and growing, and every week, everybody in their heart thinks they can get these guys. So far, it's not been the case.
In the semis, remember, it was Dan Runty's 5:11 to Andy Brass's 5:13 that gave Runty lane choice, and to no one's surprise, he takes the near lane.
Exactly. Let's see what's going to happen. We've been talking all day long. It's time to race right now.
They were ever so close to semis, which would indicate this should be a real close one. Oh, look at Runty. Not really all that close.
Whoa, Runty came out of the... Well, Andy Brass had to make some chassis adjustments. Runty goes at 06. Woo, quick time of the day, a 5:06 on the final. But Andy Brass knew he's going to have to take a shot in the dark, do some chassis changes. It just didn't work for him. He powered up in no man's land. Runty goes to the other end, Gary.
So Runty wins it, trying to close the gap on Andy Brass, who's leading now in the PENDA Points Championship. We take a look again, and Brass just could not get that truck to settle down in no man's land. And Dan Runty takes the victory, and he's standing by pit side with Army Armstrong.
Well, Dan, I tell you what, congratulations to you and the crew. Everybody really had to work for this one.
Thanks, Army. Yeah, they did. You know, the crew's been working real hard between the two trucks. We got to give them all the credit in the world. It's just not everything, you know, to come out here and be able to work with a bunch of guys like we work with, including the guys back at the shop, take care of us, build reliable trucks, along with Ford Motor Company. It's just great, Army. I love it.
Well, here's a treat for you. We'll give you a hedgehog view of victory. Coming right at you, up and over. Now let's go back trackside and talk with Andy Brass.
Gary, we're down here with Andy Brass. And Andy, I know you had to pull everything out going to the left side, but it looked like you got a whole lot of air in between the jumps.
Yeah, we tried something way different that round. We knew we was going in. We had to take the left lane there. We knew the lane was going to be bad. Or would nobody come out of the left lane with a win all day. So we was watching the times there, and we knew we was gonna, like you say, we was gonna have to pull something out of the hat. So we just geared down low and tried a third gear takeoff, something we've been wanting to try. We figured, well, we didn't have nothing to lose, so we was gonna go ahead and try it. We was hoping we could slip a little bit off the line, but it did pull harder than what we thought it would, and it launched us off the set. We thought we was gonna slip a little bit over the first set and could pick it up between the cars, but it didn't happen.
We can show you now what we were talking about with the Ford dominance in the PENDA Points Series. Andy Brass continues to lead. Dan Runty has closed in ever so slightly, however. Fred Schaefer back in third, then the Ford of Colt Cobra and Paul Schaefer's Chevrolet in the fifth spot. And Dan Runty has closed in just a bit on Andy Brass.
Yeah, I just heard Runty look over to Brass and said, boy, the only thing better than this is Mama's cooking.
And Mama's Cooking's not that far away because these guys are both in the St. Louis, Missouri area, the birthplace of monster truck racing about 10 years ago. So our congratulations to Dan Runty, who does, in fact, close in just a bit in the points chase. Now only 7 of the 13 events. And here is a look at your fast qualifier today. This is Colt Cobra, and he had a clocking of 5.37 in the Ford. And look at the air, a tough landing right there.
The loser bracket, Gary.
Well, Gary Porter made a quick exit. He got knocked out in the first round by Andy Brass. Now, Brass ran a 5:13, setting up the matchup with Fred Schaefer that Army told you about at the beginning of the show. There's Brass's 5:13. And also in round one, it was Colt Cobra against Don Van Loo.
Van Loo still trying to get the handle on that Arizona Sports Shirt Chevrolet. Just not going to be the player. Everybody's landing different. You know what I'm saying? Watch these trucks. Nobody is doing things.
And Sampson, Chevrolet against Ford.
There is a common denominator here. Both of these bodies were designed and built in Wentzville, Missouri at GTS Fiberglass. Quality
There
work.
is Colt Cobra in Snakebite, and there is Dan Patrick in Sampson. Dan builds a lot of these chassis. Did he build the Snakebite chassis?
No, but he was involved in the development of the chassis, you know, 2 and 3 years prior to that. Patrick kind of looked like a college professor there with those glasses. Let's go race.
A number of these trucks are utilizing Dan Patrick built chassis.
Right. Exactly.
All right, the first pairing now in round 2 competition. Snakebite a little late to stage on the throttle, and it's going to be
Snakebite.
Colt
Ford.
Cobra.
Whoa, Patrick almost high sides, puts it back down. Colt Cobra with a 521.
That was some of the best driving, as we always indicate. As we look at Dan Patrick's 534, some of the best drivings in the shutdown area. Dan got in trouble and drove out of it.
Exactly, but you got to remember, on a 4-wheel drive vehicle, if you can get one tire to touch something, it'll help pull you back straight most of the time.
And keep your foot in it. When you get high-sided, don't let out of the throttle. Keep your foot in it and drive through it. That's exactly what he did. Let's go down to the track now and visit with Colt Cobra.
I tell you what, Colt, it's amazing how close the competition is here tonight.
Yeah, that's right, Army. This year, everybody's coming on strong, as you saw the American Gladiator. New guy this year coming on strong, ran the first 4-second pass this year earlier. I knew I had to be strong out here. I'm doing the best we can. We came out on top. We're looking for the next round. Whoever it is, we're going to get them.
As we have documented before, it is now do or die time for Fred Schaefer. He needs to knock out Andy Brass and, of course, Dan Runte. Every chance. He's given a chance right now as he'll stage against the big blue Ford of Andy Brass. Bigfoot against the Barefoot Dodge.
You know, 2 of the old war horses go against each other here, and it's kind of ironic because Andy Brass, your current national points leader, the rumor mill has him maybe leaving monster trucks and going over to NAS truck racing. We'll keep our eye on him. Fred Schaefer, he's already been in another sport. He comes from the sport of drag racing. Schaefer makes plenty of horsepower. The problem seems to be in the chassis design on that Dodge truck. Meanwhile, the Ford guys, they have got a lock on the chassis. Everything they seem to do is working. On the blue side of the slate, on the red side of the slate, everything they seem to do jumps back in their face and shoots them in the foot or something.
Well, Fred Schaefer trying to gain some points in this season-long championship. It is still door handle, and who won it? Oh, that was too close to call visually.
They're still
Andy
racing.
Brass, a 5:38. Let's get the time on Fred Schaefer as Brass stops. Yes, Fred Schaefer does it. 5:35.
That's exactly what he had to do, man. The pressure was on both of them. You talk about a good, clean race, just kick back and watch it. The light goes green, they go to the other end. No man's land, they settle down, make horsepower, pull a trigger, and fly to the finish line. And it's a DODGE night.
Watch again. Andy Brass has a very rough landing. This is a pulling track. There's a ledge right there, and he gets off that ledge. See, right there, and has difficulty hanging on. But Fred Schaefer has to be extremely happy. He's down there with Army Armstrong.
Well, the big story has been Barefoot coming out of hibernation. I believe you may have turned the corner, Fred.
Army, after last weekend, we turned every bolt nut on this truck because we're going to do it one way or the other.
So, could this be Fred Schaefer's night in the Barefoot Dodge? As competition continues, another Ford, that's the Bigfoot Power Wheels.
Now, Schaefer has knocked one Bigfoot out tonight, but he's still got this guy in front of him tonight and in a points chase. But what you're looking at right now is one of the guys I'm glad to see in this round of competition, finally given a chance to get some national exposure to the Hall Brother Racing Team. The national exposure goes to their sponsors.
Well, Mark Hall, of course, will be in the Executioner as we take a look at Dan Runte out of St. Louis, Missouri in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He is second right now in the point standings. Mark Hall out of Champaign, Illinois in the Executioner. And perhaps you noticed earlier that Spies Hecker on the front fender. That is a German auto finish. It's a German paint product that we're seeing show up more and more as a sponsor in American motorsports.
Yeah, we're glad to see them working with the Hall brothers and helping them out. But right now, believe me, this Chevrolet team out of Champaign, Illinois, has got their hands full of that big blue oval bunch Ford over there. They leave the line together. Bigfoot's out on him. Bigfoot
there
all
was
the way.
never a doubt, never in question there. Dan Runte, there's Executioner's 5.54, but Runte ran a 5.11.
Boy, 5.11 is a number, believe me. We're going to be seeing more of that Executioner truck. They're working their way into the program. They qualified for every race all year, Gary.
So Runte finds himself in the semis. Another good look at Runte and the Power Wheels Bigfoot. We're coming back. Stay with us.
The 4 vehicles, we got 1 Chevy, 1 Ford, 1 Dodge, 1 Ford. You know, we've been here before.
And look at the position of Fred Schaefer in the cockpit. These new trucks have the drivers, just like Colt Cobra, right in the middle of the truck.
Gary, you're exactly right. Even though these monster trucks weigh 10,000 pounds, the position of the driver is so important because, as we saw earlier, when Andy Brass landed, you not only go left, right, up, and down, you pitch and yaw. You've got to balance the truck, even at 10,000 pounds. Barefoot's crew, they are sweating BBs. They know what has to be done. He's got to get past this guy.
He has to get past Colt Cobra to get a shot at Dan Runte. He needs points.
He needs points in a big way. This is not a game of hand grenades. Close doesn't count. He's got to beat him on the other end of this track. It's getting close. You can feel the drama in the air. Just like any race, anytime you go somewhere, they roll into the lights. Schaefer goes in early. Normally he doesn't do that. Snakebite rolls in. This is going to be a war.
Who's it going to be, Army?
Ford, big time on the big end.
Snakebite as the Dodge crew conversing now from crew to the truck. But Colt Cobra at a 5.08 will continue on. Fred Schaefer heads for the barn at 5.36.
Well, we thought it was going to change. That's not to be the case. Ford still flexing his muscle tonight.
Take a look again. Fred Schaefer coming right at you.
Watch the front end of the truck. See, he powers up right here and keeps it up. He needs to get those front tires back down on the ground so they can pull him.
Well, so once again, Fred Schaefer knocked out by this guy right here, Colt Cobra.
Number was a 5.08. That's awfully good, but you knew you got to pull a good number to beat Fred.
Yeah, Fred's really coming on with the Dodge people over there. Us in our Ford program, we're a privateer out here trying to make it. With the Ford backing us, we're out there running as fast as we can. We turned to 5.08. Hopefully that's good enough to stand up for lane choice going into the final against another Ford.
I've heard of a guy selling their blood. Does a snake sell their venom for extra money?
I don't know, but that guy has got blood in his eyes right now.
So now we have Chevrolet of Samson, Dan Patrick, against Dan Runte's Ford. There's the Ford. Power Wheels Bigfoot.
Runte, the new kid on the block, the Power Wheels Bigfoot. You say you can buy a miniature of that in your local Kmart, Walmart, what have you. Samson truck, Dan Patrick in the other lane's been around for many years. He's been here longer than the dirt they're running on, I believe. And he is instrumental in so many of the advances in the chassis of this truck, of this Ford. Finally, he gets to race one of his own designs.
I'll bet you Dan wins.
Oh, right. I just figured that out. Okay, what brand is going to win?
Ford.
I say it's... Okay.
Got you on that one.
Well, one's a Chevrolet, one's a Ford. You got to be pulling for that one.
All right, I'll take Dan Runte in the Ford.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take the rest of the field.
All right, they're staged because the winner here goes to the championship against Colt Cobra.
Dan Patrick is really working the lights, trying to sidekick kid out on the far side. I don't believe he's going to do it. And I don't blame Patrick for doing it. Dan Runte knows he was going to do it. It's called mind games. Right now, it goes from minds to horsepower. You take it, Gary.
And the horsepower belongs to the Ford. Runte takes it at a 5.16. 5.16 for Runte. And that is slower than Colt Cobra's time in his semifinal run. And there is Dan Patrick's 5.65.
Okay, let's get back to our wager now. Patrick finished second in that race, and your guy was next to last, even though two Fords are going into the final.
Well, yeah, if only two guys are running.
Oh, that's the way the bet went down. The folks at home will verify. I win.
Let me think about that for a moment. Well, anyway, we know that Dan Runte won. Let's go down and see what he has to say.
Dan, I tell you what, the Chevrolet guys are trying to come after you all and pull you in. He's running good. You got to him. How close was it down there?
It was real close, Army. I think the truck's really been working well. That time it kind of threw me for a loop between the first and second set of cars. Can't blame it on the truck. I really wasn't prepared for it. I don't know what to say as far as going into the finals here. It's going to be rough. I've been running in the left lane all night. Been running good times, but that one I just kind of got a little squirrely in between the cars. We'll have to wait and see.
The honeymooners are perhaps werewolves from London.
Okay, let's play honeymooners. Ralph and Alice, you're going to be in the Bigfoot truck, and Norton, you and Trixie over to the snake truck.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The Power Wheels Bigfoot will have Dan Runte and Colt Cobra. Right there's Colt will be in Snakebite. And Cramdens and Trixie and the rest of the
other
cast
people,
are
yeah.
not here.
Both the trucks run 460 cubic inch engines. Both of them are blower drive services. Supercharger on top. The trucks are very, very similar. It's going to get down to which driver can drive the truck. A lot of rivalry here, but then again, a lot of respect. As the Blue Oval Bunch is going to take another win on this PENDA Point Series, Gary. They have been dominating this year.
Well, remember, in the semifinal round, Colt Cobra was actually faster than Dan Runte, so he gets lane choice. He takes the lane nearest us.
And he is kind of flirting with disaster there because, well, not in the final, he's not, but there's a little down dip to the right side. But I guess he figures, hey, it's a final. Let's pull the trigger and go for this thing. Both drivers, oh, a little bit. Ah, there you go, Gary. What he did, he burnt the throttle left lane and spooked the driver in the far lane, made him back on the throttle. So he just flat out thought him on that one.
That's no drag racing stunt, is it not?
Yeah, exactly. You burp the throttle, you make the other guy leave, then you stop. Then he stops and you go. Dan Runte got foxed on that one.
Dan Runte, red lights, he disqualified. Look again, watch the truck left side.
Now watch him, he'll move, then the other guy will move, but he'll stop right there, and then he stops, boom.
Runte, red lights, and Colt Cobra takes the victory. Army?
Hey, you take them any way you can get them, but that was sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. You know, Snakebite's been running hard this year, and, you know, we came back, you know, last weekend we got a win, come back hard and strong, and Snakebite's in the finals, and won, #1.
But the lesson to be learned here is to watch the Christmas tree. Don't watch the guy next to you.
Yeah, but the good Lord gives you something called peripheral vision. When something moves, you're going to move with it too. You know, when thousandths of a second counts, that's what it's all about. It's kind of like a slide job in a race car. Now, the replay on the screen is going to show us real quick. Watch what happens. Burp, stop, go, stop, go. Now we got a good race for us.
Yeah, but it's all over right there. He won it right there, and here is your winner.
Tell you what, Colt, I bet that guy's life passed in front of him when you burped that throttle and the light didn't go red on him.
I've been trying to play the lights. Lights are a big part of the racing here when it's this close. I thought it was going. I started to go and stopped, and I guess I brought my motor up. He went. I didn't know what happened to him, if he had broke or what, or if he was right behind me. Just stayed with it all the way down through there, and looks like we came out with a win. Everybody here has been teasing us all night about our little puppy motor, but I guess the puppy's loose tonight.
I tell you, the puppy was howling tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you, Army.
Well, with all the activity here this evening, Fred Schaefer falls back to 4th in the PENDA points standings. And brass over Colt Cobra. Fred Schaefer in the Dodge Barefoot was 3rd, then Dan Runte, and then Porkowski. So you can see how evenly matched this field appears to be. Now, this was in qualifying. As we look back, a rough ride here for Colt Cobra. Look at this landing.
What happens, the right lane at Canfield has a unique, about a 4-foot drop off. The drivers are aware of it. When you're flying through the, told you earlier, the Barefoot boys are on a mission. They're kind of like the Blues brothers today.
9th fastest qualifier, Don Van Loo against Dan Runte, the 4th fast qualifier, and Runte takes the victory in round 1. And again, some trouble in the shutdown area for Don Van Loo.
Right lane, 4-foot drop off. Remember, that's in the back of everybody's mind that runs that lane.
Back ends
Go to round 2. Also in round 1, Colt Cobra would defeat Pam Botters in the Boogie Van.
Let me tell you something. Pam Botters is a monster truck driver. If they can come up with some bucks and a good sponsor, they could be major players next year. It's a good family operation. She does a great job of driving. Good truck, knows how it's going to handle. Porkowski comes over. He's a new kid on the block. He's a hired driver, a new truck, a lot of horsepower. So, you know, you got to give the nod on this one to that big blue Ford. But I tell you what, Dodge knows, Porkowski knows that if he can bump that blue Ford out with that red Dodge, it'll sure help Fred Schaefer to try to stay in the picture for the championship.
There's a good view from the backside. The Christmas tree right in the middle. Watch the lights change. There they are.
Both drivers leave good together. Brass in no man's land settles down and goes.
Yeah, once again, so often Andy Brass has won from no man's land. He gets that chassis to settle down. He applies the horsepower and wins it between the two sets of cars.
Exactly. He really just basically rolls that first set of cars, and then he gets down to homework at no man's land.
We take a look now at the pairing for the second round. The Power Wheels Bigfoot. There's Fred Schaefer in barefoot. But before this run, let's go down trackside now as Army's had a chance to catch up with Andy Brass.
Andy, the Dodgers keep taking shots at you guys, but they keep falling short, but they're getting closer. You got to admit that.
Yes, it is. You know, like I say, this whole year has been some good close racing, but the Ford Bigfoot's been running good for us. John Kazi Motors been producing some horsepower. You know, we've been trying some things with our BDS blowers. Things have been doing out real well for us. You know, our horsepower's come up a little bit. Now all we got to do is be able to keep the horsepower down on the track. You know, we had a little transmission problems, but I think we overcome it today, and I think we're going to go all the way to the finals.
Well, Dan Runte, a close second. He's chipping away at the lead held by Andy Brass, but it hasn't been easy, as Army Armstrong found out following Dan Runte's round 1 win.
Gary, I want you to notice something. It's about 24 inches from the top of the tire to the bottom of the fender here. But look how the fender is being rubbed by the tire. This tire is coming up and hitting so hard when they make contact with the ground, it's actually coming up and making contact with the body. These guys are literally nose diving them into the ground, or nose diving at that finish line, or diving head first at the finish line, whatever you want to call it. They're hitting a ton when they hit on the other end. Back to you, Gary.
That's a combination of 10,000 pounds of truck and a whole lot of shock travel.
Oh, you're exactly right. And so much of the technology for the shock absorbers come from the off-road, the Baja type racers, these long-arm shocks, these special chassis they're putting together to allow to get that travel in there. They know you got to make the wheel travel to be on the ground, Gary.
Fred Schaefer in the lane nearest the camera. In the barefoot truck taking on Dan Runte, it is for Dan Runte. So Runte continues to close in on Andy Brass, and once again, Fred Schaefer really needed this victory to move up in the point standings.
Well, both Dodges did. You know, you had two Fords in this round. They put two Dodges out. Whoa, you don't want to do that.
Well, take a look again at this rough landing for Fred Schaefer. He's over the first set of cars through no man's land. Now watch this rough landing for the Dodge.
Like I say, they're just literally airing them out, doing anything they can to get to the finish line.
And here's Dan Runte.
Dan, it seems like that the competitions keep getting closer and closer and closer.
It does, Army. We went out there and just ran the fastest time of the day with the 508 in the left lane. A lot of it today has got to do with lights. If you've got a good light, you're there. If you don't, you're not.
Just like drag racing, you're dealing with thousandths of seconds. You can lose right at the first inch of the race.
That's exactly it. You know, that's what it's all boiling down to.
Well, as round 2 competition continues, here is a good battle. This will be Sampson, the Chevrolet of Dan Patrick, and he will stage alongside Colt Cobra in the Ford Snakebite.
Dan Patrick brings a ton of knowledge to his own racing team. Been involved in the sport for a long time, but he himself has never had a chance to come over and race head-to-head with these guys. Dan Yuppie Patrick is what we're going to call it. Goes against
Colt Cobra
Snake, yeah.
Out of Culver Creek, Colorado, and there's the look at the rear of look at the hill that he's starting from. That looks like a starter block in a track meet.
Exactly, but you start on the backside of the block here. It's kind of strange. Patrick is starting to show some strength for the Chevrolet people. Again, Chevrolet is still looking for a leader in this monster truck series. Patrick can run with anybody, but you take it.
I don't know. Who was it? Who was it?
Patrick showing right there he can run with any of these Fords. A 5'10" for Sampson.
And what was it for Colt Cobra? 5'10", a dead heat.
What are you doing in a case like that?
Run it again, I guess.
You folks want to run it again? Yeah, I do.
Well, let's run it again, I guess. Here is a replay. And this is what it looks like when you run a dead heat. Sampson, the far lane, Snakebite, the near lane. Look at this. Over that second set of cars right together in the air, and, well.
Both trucks identical. I guarantee you, Snakebite guy, he wants to do good for Ford. This is the American way. This is what racing's all about. Let's back them up and do it one more time.
You sound like a politician up there stumping for election.
No, but if you do vote for me, I'll be more than happy.
Get out of here. No politicking on this show. Colt Cobra, the near lane. Dan Patrick, the far lane. Sampson against Snakebite. It was a dead heat before at 5:10. Let's see what they can crank out this time. It looks like Sampson. Sampson by a nose. Sampson by that fist.
Knuckle.
All right. A 5:08 for Dan Patrick. And for Colt Cobra, he clocks in at 5:13. So the Chevrolet will advance. Remember, we could have a fast loser
Yeah,
coming
Gary, say,
back.
I'm just checking the scorecard. That 5:13 could put him back in there, but right now, you Chevrolet people stand up and smile because you're still alive in this thing. And a kid called Sampson, Dan Patrick, the hippie, the yuppie, he put you there.
Yeah.
But Dan, we got good news. What you're looking at there is the notorious cantilever suspension that Bob Chandler came up with. They've kind of kept it under wraps. They keep a low profile on it, but it's working, believe me.
Yeah, it gets the chassis to settle down in the no man's land. That's where he really makes the horsepower.
Yeah, we're talking about all the travel. Well, his shock absorbers can travel just as much as the other guys, but the wheel will move further through geometry. Now, you kids sitting home watch this on TV, you go ask your math teacher how cantilever suspension works. I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you. Old Uncle Army and Uncle Gary can't right now.
That's right. Well, you can write an essay on it for extra credit points in your geometry class.
That's right, but right now, both motors, 460 cubic inch, lower drive service prepared Ford engines. We got a race, buddy.
Who's it gonna be?
We just saw a race. What's the number?
Who is it gonna be? As close as it possibly could be. A 5:12. Is this another dead heat? A 5:12 for Colt and a 5:13 for Andy. Oh my, Colt Cobra.
Man, if they were playing hand grenades today, he's hitting close.
That's as close as you can get without having a dead heat.
Well, he's already had that. He just wins this one by a TT. Look at this.
By a fang.
Exactly. A snaggletooth, if you will.
Let's go talk to Colt Cobra.
Colt, you really don't seem to let too many of these other guys bother you. They don't seem to phase you at all, no matter who you're going up against.
No, I don't let them intimidate me. Like I said, I may be a privateer out here. I just went up against, took out one of the big boys, the Bigfoot cruiser there with Andy. Veteran driver. I've been here. They used to call me the new guy, and now I'm not the new guy anymore. Now I'm the guy that's there every round, taking the wins, putting them out, hopefully going to the finals.
Well, indeed, it looks like he could be the guy that beat here this afternoon in Canfield as we take a look at another pairing between Dan Patrick in Sampson, the near lane. There's a look at Gene Patterson, his crew chief here this afternoon.
Everybody knows Patterson used to work with the Bigfoot people. He's gone over to work with Patrick, the privateer, and they're doing awfully well for themselves right now, but you know, past don't count. This is the only thing that counts right now because you see in the background the big flames of the Power Wheels Bigfoot. The Friendship just went on the shelf. They'll pick it up in about 200 feet down the road here.
Well, Dan Runte drives the Bigfoot Power Wheels entry, and he is closing in on Andy Brass in the PENDA Points Series. The last 3 or 4 weeks, he's really closed the margin down. A win here would actually, I think, give him the points lead.
But you got to get past this Chevrolet, and like I say, Dan Patrick and Patterson, they are going to go for your throat big time. Not going to work for them. That Ford's going into the final.
Yeah, it will be Dan Runte as he takes that win with a 5.00 ET. What a run for Dan Runte and the Bigfoot. And there's the 5.17 for Dan Patrick.
5 flat is awesome with the 10,000-pound truck, Gary. He just left on him, rolled the first hill. Now watch this. Plants the horsepower. He is off and flying.
And he flies right into the championship round here at Canfield with that run. And here, trackside's Dan Runte.
Each run, that Chevrolet is trying to pull you guys in. You got to give credit where credit's due. Gene and Dan are doing a good job. But you're the guy that's going into the next round.
That's right, Army. We come out, run a faster time this time than we ran last time. Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot's really hooking up. Got to thank BDS. We've been working a lot with them as far as horsepower, and we're getting it to the ground. It's working tough.
Definitely takes horsepower now. There's no grins and giggles. It's raw horsepower.
That's right.
Caught up with both drivers. First, Dan Runte.
Well, you know this guy wants you in the worst way. He's going to do anything he can to beat you, but that's racing. That's the caliber of racing we're having right now.
That's right. We're going out here. We have lane choice. Did a faster time last run than he did. That's going to make a difference, I think. We just got to go out here, cut a good light. Like I said earlier, that's making all the difference in the world, and see how it comes out.
If we can win again here tonight, it'd be 2 in a row. Be a good shot in the arm, good shot in the arm for us and Ford. Get the power down to these Firestones, get it down that track, be first across the line. We'll meet you in the winner's circle.
Does the snake have an arm?
There's a confident driver right there is Colt Cobra and Dan Runte for the second straight outing. These two are meeting for the championship.
Okay, now you got to go back and realize that the last time they met, Runte kind of shot himself in the foot. Colt Cobra played a little mind game on him and got away with it. Now, I would be willing to bet a week's payment, a week of your pay.
A week of my pay.
Of your pay.
It won't happen
again. That will
again.
not happen again. Dan Runte has that snake in his crosshairs. He will not make a mistake.
I would tend to agree this time he'll not be snookered like he was the last time. And if you didn't see our show last week, we can tell you that these same two staged. Colt jumped and got back, or burped it, as he said, got back on the brake, and then when Runte burped it, he couldn't get it stopped, and he red lighted.
Snake burped in gold, and the Bigfoot whoa-woed.
All right, here you are, Dan Runte and Colt Cobra. Dan trying to take over the PENDA Point Series lead after 9 events of a 13-race series.
Good heads-up start. Both drivers. Dan Runte is there.
Dan Runte has him. And he has picked up the PENDA points lead with the points picked up here this afternoon. Colt Cobra 5:17, and Dan will go a 5:08. So Dan Runte takes over the PENDA Point Series lead. Once again, this was the 9th race of 13 events as he goes around Andy Brass. Colt Cobra's 3rd, Schaefer is 4th, and Patrick is now 5th. Army?
Gary, I tell you what, we're down here with the new national points leader being congratulated by his crew by 380 points, buddy. You're the guy they're all chasing now. Congratulations.
Thanks, Army. Like I said, the truck's been working really well. We got to thank the crew. Every round we went out here, it ran a little bit faster. The truck's working good. Firestone tires are hooking up. Everything's going well for us. We really can't complain about anything.
You know, it doesn't come easy, though. I mean, between every round, everybody is working like crazy. I mean, you're not backing into this thing. You're definitely having to earn your way.
No, Army, and there's something different here that we ain't seen in a while either, is the lanes are real similar here, so there's not a real big lane choice. I feel the left lane's a little better, but that's my preference, and that's got a lot to do with the way things are going here.
There are actually 230 points now separating first and second. Our congratulations to Dan Running. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond B Sports.
He goes to the next round.
Well, the hottest time so far turned in by Dan Runte, a blistering 498 to Gary Porter's 506.
Dan Runte definitely holding a high ground in this competition. He and that 460 cubic inch Ford Allen Root horsepower are showing away tonight.
Well, that
salvage yard operator came into the sport about 2 years ago after dominating the sport of professional mud racing, wanted to try his hand at monsters, and believe me, he's got a hold of a snake of his own kind right now. Well, look who's in that other lane.
Andy Brass, Bigfoot, and here is Andy's bye run earlier. He was the fast qualifier, but he dropped off from a 4.99 to a 5.08 in that bye run. Both coming in the same lane, and right now he's in that far lane from our camera position there.
From a dead stop, 250 feet over 2 obstacles, jumping 20 feet in the air in less than 5 seconds. Oh, just another day at the office or on the midway in
a
this
10,000-pound truck.
There you go. We are having fun now. Ford Chevrolet, let's see who's going to be, Gary.
Round 2 is now underway. It's going to be all Ford. No contest as Andy Brass takes the victory in Bigfoot of 5.03, so a tad quicker than that bye run, not as fast as he qualified. There's Paul Schaefer's 5.55.
5.55 is a good number, but not good enough tonight. We've got one Ford takes a win. We got another Ford going to the line now. Who's he go against?
Well, Snakebite going up against Samson. Samson, the Chevrolet. That would be Dan Patrick, and there is Colt Cobra in the Snakebite Ford. Speaking of Ford, Army down with Jim Kramer, the crew chief for Bigfoot.
Jim, I understand Andy's going to stay in the truck. They're really hot lapping them, running them real quick behind each other. So we're going to ask you, what does it look like first round or second round now?
Well, you know, we've been working with Andy's truck quite a bit, and we're really starting to lean on her tonight. We've been leaning on a couple other trucks here, and we're starting to really lean on this one. It looks like, you know, the time's been coming down so drastically tonight. The air is better, the track's getting better, the guys getting more used to these ramps, and some fast times coming in. I look for him to get faster. I have to look for him to get faster, all right? He's going to have to, matter of fact. But things are going to turn around for us. We're going to make that blue truck run.
Back out of action with the Dan Patrick in Sampson. He took out Mark Hall in the executioner in round 1, and Colt Cobra took out Ray Porkowski in round 1.
Well, Patrick has already taken a win for Chevrolet this year on the PENDA Point Series. As a matter of fact, the only win that wasn't won by Ford. But the rumor mill has him maybe teaming up with the Jasper engine people out of Jasper, Indiana. They're engine remanufacturing, and they make a whole bunch of horsepower. So he's not going to be afraid to pull up next to that Allen Root Ford horsepower in the far lane. He's got the Jasper horsepower under that Chevrolet hood. Let's kind of keep an eye on that, Gary.
Of course, that'll come sometime next season, likely.
Exactly, but right now,
all Ford.
Second place.
Snake bite, all Ford. Well, they say second place is just the first loser.
Yeah, second place is first place is next to last in this sport.
I think we discussed that a couple of shows back.
And you never did understand it.
No,
okay, the
I
replay
didn't.
comes up. The horsepower takes place right on the starting line. The snake bite truck just settles down and does what it's supposed to do. It just goes to the other end.
Of course, Patrick was right with him. There's the margin of victory. And there is a look at Fred Schaefer strapped in the cockpit of the big Dodge Barefoot. And behind him, you see the Bigfoot power wheels of Dan Runte. He was simply on fire in round 1, a 498.
He's got to be. He's set number 2 in the points. Andy Brass, he's the leader in the points. Andy Brass is coming after him. These guys have got to stay focused. Now, let's get back to a horsepower story. Schaefer in the near lane, all kind of horsepower with this Dodge Hemi engine. The suspension's not working on the car. Meanwhile, they go back. You hear the name Allen Root again, making the Ford horsepower. So it's turned into a muscle game, if you will. No matter what happens, like rock and roll, on the other end of this track, you got to twist and shout. Who takes it, Gary?
Well, the Ford takes it. A close one, though, with the Dodge. We've seen the technology come a long way in suspensions. Now they want to hook up the horsepower. So now, as you indicated, you alluded to how they're trying to get more horsepower each passing season. So a quick one, a good one for Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He turns in a 497. That's quicker than round 1. That would make Fred Schaefer the fast loser. Let's go down trackside and talk with Dan Runte.
Good number, 497. That's just fast.
We fell in the force twice this time. The track's really looking good out there, Army. I don't know what else we can do to make it any faster. The truck, everything's working. The guys are just doing a tremendous job. I got to thank all them, and it's working. That's all I can say.
Off the final jump, the truck really, from my angle, looks like it's doing some weird stuff. That doesn't bother you at all?
It does. You know, that's something that you got to worry about a little later on down the track. The way the truck's coming down is the way we got the back shock set up. When we leave the second ramp, it is throwing the back of the truck. But like I said, that's the finish line. It's all over then.
Speaking of being all over, that concludes round 2 competition. And there's a look at snakebite. Colt Cobra, he could be the next victim for Dan Runte. Meanwhile, a lot of money.
That's right.
A lot of money at season's end.
Andy Brass has not done an interview with me all night long. He's staying focused. He's staying in the truck. He's set number 2 in the points. He knows he's kind of in a sandwich situation. The Dodge that we see right now is trying to catch him. Meanwhile, Andy in the blue Ford is trying to catch the other Bigfoot truck of Dan Runte.
Yeah, right now, this season has been a Bigfoot show. And there is Andy, the far lane. The Ford against the Dodge Barefoot of Fred Schaefer. Fred playing catch-up, as we said earlier.
He's leaning on it.
Broken truck right now, but it's going to be Andy Brass. Whoa, another hard landing. And there's Jim Kramer and the crew ecstatic for Andy Brass. As he said earlier, they're trying to improve this truck, to press the truck, and try to catch the teammate.
Yeah, they're leaning on the equipment now. We're 13 races in the season. We're at 10, and they got to lean on the equipment right now. Speaking of equipment, who comes up next?
Another Ford. That is snakebite Colt Cobra will be the next up, and he'll be taking on the other Bigfoot, the Power Wheels Bigfoot of Dan Runte. But first, let's go down trackside and visit with Army Armstrong and Andy Brass.
Andy, every time you go against Fred, it's just like a dogfight out there.
Yes, it is. You know, we've been watching a lot of the times tonight. So Fred's been turning in some pretty decent times, so we knew he was going to have to come off the light pretty good. Seemed to put in a pretty nice time. You know, I'd like to see a little faster because I'm watching the guys here in the finals. I know they're going to probably turn out a faster time and get lane choice on us. So we was hoping for a little bit better time than what we got, but we're happy with what we had.
It's unusual to hear Andy Brass talk like that. In seasons past, he has been the one they're all shooting for. The competition has closed up so much this season that now Andy Brass finds himself not on top of the standings, but second in the points. And right now we have a pair of Fords staging for the right to face Andy Brass for the championship here in Canfield. There's a look at his teammate, the Power Wheels Bigfoot, Dan Runte presently leading the point standings, and he pulls up alongside Snakebite and Colt Cobra.
Neither one will pull up next to the other guy. Right now, I've been keeping an eye on this. These guys are playing mind games with each other because previously when they met, as the winner will have to go against that truck, previously when these two trucks met, Snakebite literally psyched out Dan Runte. So they're playing mind games, and the games is you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. No, I went first last time. No, you go first.
Races back at
Neither one of them,
Missouri.
yeah. Let's see who goes into the lights first. Meanwhile, where's Buster Couch when you need him? Because the starter, he's just standing looking down track. He needs to be pointing to the start line, getting these guys on the line. We're just about ready to go racing. Did the Snake sight Runte out this time? We're going to find out real quick. It looks like now they're both going in pretty clean.
All right, the right to face Andy Brass. Oh, it's all Dan Runte. No contest. That was not even close. Hey, and look at the time, Army. 496 ET. That is the quickest run ever in this competition for Runte to a 558 for Colt.
It took a world record to put the Snakebite on the trailer, but Runte now is the guy that moved to the high ground. Andy Brass again goes to the makeup, having to come from behind to beat Runte. He is just on a roll. When you're hot, you're hot.
So Runte has lane choice. He's happy. Let's go down trackside and talk to him, Army.
Well, Dan, we just received word. I understand your crew's already told you 496. That's the quickest ever in the sport to get past the Snake Man.
Yeah, that was I didn't really know that. No, I didn't, Army. I just found that out when you said that. That's impressive. Like I said, the truck's working. Ford's got us hooked to the ground. That's all I got to say about that.
They're going to be rubbing snake oil all over you tonight. That was an awesome run.
I got a feeling they might be chasing me around with a cooler. I don't know.
As hot as he is, that water would turn to steam if they dumped a cooler on him. Now, keep in mind, 8 out of 10 final events this season have seen Dan Runte in competition. Oh, man, he's been impressive. We're coming back to Dan Runte. Runte has been so hot tonight. Fastest run ever over a course this length. And earlier, Army had a chance to talk with both of our finalists.
It's going to be a tough one no matter how you look at it. We got lane choice again. That's going to help our side out a little bit. The truck's working well. I don't know what else to say.
Basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's about right. You know, it's dialed in and it's running hard, so we'll just see what happens.
The truck here has not been turning out the times that we would like to see this weekend. You know, it's just been a little bit slower than what we wanted, and I think we're going to have to check it out when we get back. But like I say, we got a chance to go out here and do something with it. You know, I'm going to give it all it's got and just hope we turn a little bit better times than what we have been.
Well, as you heard Dan Runte say, he has lane choice. That 496 turned in the last round, the quickest ever in this type of competition. That's pretty impressive for a 10,000-pound truck.
Oh, you're exactly right. And there's a couple of things that these trucks have in common. Same size engine. Both of them have the Just Say No to Drugs decal on the back, and I think both drivers believe in the no fear philosophy of life, because you are going to see a double throwdown run here. No love lost. Andy Brass got the experience, trying to use his experience to make up a little horsepower. He says he's down on him. Runte, they've been able to shake him in the past. Is he going to cool down, keep a cool head, and go to the other end as a winner? We're going to find out. Remember, Runte, the far lane, is your national points leader. Andy Brass has been there before. He knows what it's going to take to pull this kid in. Can he do it?
Once again, Andy Brass second in the point standings to his teammate Dan Runte as they stage for the championship here in Canfield, Ohio. Runte has been in 8 of the last 10 finals.
Good lead by both.
Oh, it's all Dan Runte. Dan Runte by almost a truck length, which is still an impressive victory. There's a 5-second run. He has been so consistent all leading. This will help to pad his points lead over Andy Brass. The top 3 are Fords, then it's a Dodge, and then a Chevrolet. Let's go down trackside and visit with our champion. Army?
Well, I tell you what, it definitely takes a team to do this thing. Congratulations, Herb. I know you guys have been working real hard. A 5 flat, that's your slowest of the night, but that's still like a rocket.
Yeah, it was, Army. That was a little bit slower. We lost a little bit off the line there. It just didn't pull as hard. I think the line was going away there at the end.
I tell you, you go to the bank on Monday morning, they don't care about that line. They just want to make sure it checks good. Hey, we got a surprise for you. Hey, it's not like the NFL, but I tell you, the thrill is just the same. Back to you, Gary.
Well, that's about the only thing that could cool off Dan Runte. Season long, Andy Brass has been leading in points. But right now, he finds himself playing catch-up to his teammate Dan Runte. Hi, everybody, I'm Gary Lee, and welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power on the Nashville Network. You know, I have to wonder, does this represent a changing of the guard within the Bigfoot monster truck racing team? Well, Army Armstrong, who does have the biggest feet?
Gary, in answer to your question is simple. Dan Runte has the biggest feet in Canfield. Through the qualifying session today, he had quick qualifying time. He's already taken 2 wins out of Canfield, so literally everybody was kind of spooked by him. Well, that's not the case with the other Bigfoot truck, Andy Brass, who lost his national points lead to Runte here at Canfield. He and his crew have kind of regrouped, reset their train of thought, and come back and go quicker than the Bigfoot Power Wheels with their Bigfoot Cruiser in that first round of elimination. What I'm trying to tell you, I don't know which one of these trucks could hold on and win this thing today if it's at all possible. Right now, in this sport, both of these trucks are capable of kicking their competitors through the field goal finish line. Back to you, Gary.
Here's action from round 1. In fact, Andy Brass turned in the quickest run of 4.96. That ties him with Dan Runte for the fastest time ever in this type of competition as he took out Fred Schaefer in round 1. Now, also in round 1, Paul Schaefer, near lane, respectable 5.15 ET. Spent a ton of money to get that low. However, it still wasn't good enough for the Ford. The Ford takes him at a 5.05. Dan Runte continues on.
Okay, Runte and these guys seem to be leapfrogging everybody. A 5.15 is an awesome run, but Runte and the Bigfoot boys, they went a 10th quicker. Everybody catches them, then they jump out. For an example, Mark Hall goes up against Colt Cobra. Hall in a Chevrolet, Cobra in a Ford, same scenario. This guy goes a low 5-second run, a 5.11 to be exact. Hall makes a good run, nothing to be ashamed of. For the Portage, Indiana Auto Salvage businessman is an Arius engine. No problem with horsepower. You just got to get the chassis squared away. Speaking of horsepower, the Power Wheels team, they've hooked up with Alan Root to make buku horsepower for those Ford engines, the supercharged version of the 460 cubic inch engine, Gary.
Well, Dan Runte certainly has the package going his way. The package meaning horsepower, the suspension works. He's tough to beat.
Plus, he's got a cool driver suit and a no-fear decal on his helmet.
Well, yeah, but he has to put the pedal down and have it all hooked up, though, when he goes racing. And so far, this has been his season.
Still got a cool driver suit.
Well, he does at that.
We're both kind of jealous of his driver suit. Chevrolet versus Ford. Let's see what's going to happen. Schaefer, near lane Chevrolet, nothing to lose. He's experimenting, trying to get the horsepower to the ground. We know the Ford can do it. They leave together. Gary, you take the call.
That's going to be Ford at the far side. Bigfoot Power Wheels of Dan Runte. So he will advance. Dan had a time of 5.04. There's the time for Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He will advance and maybe pad his points cushion just a bit of 5.17. Respectable run for Paul Schaefer.
There's your 10th I was talking about. The Ford's leapfrog. You catch them, they'll jump out a 10th on you. You catch them, they'll jump out again. Let's see what's going to happen. Runte at the finish line, a little bit lollygag, a landing there, but it works.
Lollygagging, there's a word for your vocabulary. Let's go back trackside, Army.
What's causing the truck to yaw like that on the other end? That last jump is throwing you completely sideways, it looks like to me.
Army, it's pretty much the way we got Trailmaster shocks valve. They're set, the truck's setting down in between the cars. That's what we're looking for. We're really not looking for the finish line. As long as the truck's landed and we can control it, that's after the fact. And that really doesn't make a big difference. Like I said, if the truck sits down in between the 2 sets of cars and hooks up the whole distance, that's what makes your times faster.
Yeah, but that's when you hold your breath down there when you're not quite straight in the shutdown area. There's a good look at Gene Patterson, hands on his hips. He's the crew chief for Dan Patrick and Sampson. No stranger to monster truck competition, either as a crew chief or as a driver, formerly with Bigfoot.
Oh, he knows exactly what he's doing. That's why Patrick has teamed up with him. I'm looking for something from these guys in the future. They're talking to a lot of the major corporations. They're trying to work their way back in. As Dan Patrick's picture comes up on the screen, they want to put Chevrolet back in a winner's circle. They want to break this Ford dominance.
There's a look at Colt Cobra, the snake bite truck, and it will be Ford against Chevrolet. Patrick, in fact, was the first truck in Sampson into the 4-second bracket. He has found victory lane already this season.
Yeah, that's been the highlight for the Chevrolet camp, because as soon as he went into the fours, the Ford followed him there, and they've been dominant since.
And right there, snake bite takes the victory, the far lane. The time on that was a 5.08 for Colt Cobra. Dan Patrick's 5.13, ever so close, but hey, not close enough.
Yeah, again, we're not playing horseshoes and hand grenades. Close doesn't count.
So once again, a Ford continues to win. As we take a look right here, you see the Ford is on the ground first, hooking up the horsepower. Now, all the Fords are using the Trailmaster shocks. Snakebite takes the win. He's standing by trackside with Army Armstrong.
Tell you what, you're like a bad penny to this Bigfoot team. You just keep coming back, and they keep trying to chop your head off, and you keep coming back after them.
That's right, Arm. We keep coming back. We're trying to knock on the door, so to speak, with the Bigfoot team over there. We're doing the best job we can. They know we're here. They're just trying not to look back, but they're going to have to look back one of these days because we're right there.
Coming up next, another Ford Chevrolet pairing with the Bigfoot Blue Ford of Andy Brass and the Carolina Crusher of Gary Porter. Andy Brass, the 11th event this season, is playing catch-up. In fact, he is only second in the point standings.
Oh, that's a new role for Andy, but I don't think it's going to affect him. He is such a cool driver. He's calm, cool, and collective. He's going to do exactly what he has to do. He's concentrating on going to the other end. The St. Louis recently married native knows what he's got to do. He knows what Bob Chandler pays him to do. Meanwhile, Gary Porter, the privateer, he runs off his own pocketbook with the Carolina Crusher. He knows what he's got to do, too. He had the hot hand in his sport about 3 years ago, lost it because he's spending so much time on the road. He doesn't have a research and development program like the Bigfoot team, and that's costing he and the other drivers, Gary.
Well, of course, Gary Porter won the national title here about 3 years ago. Down in the point standings right now as he stages alongside the Big Blue of Andy Brass. Round 2 competition continues here in Canfield, Ohio.
Got a good race. Check this out.
Andy Brass wins it. Oh, and here's a good time for Brass, 4:98. Second straight run in the fours for Andy Brass. 5:08, a good run for Gary Porter, just not quick enough.
Keep bumping out. It's kind of like a carrot. They just hold it far enough in front of you.
Here's a look at your final four. The Power Wheels Bigfoot against Snakebite. Carolina enthusiasm, the spirits, or the competition. There's a look at the Bigfoot Power Wheels of Dan Runte. And let's go back trackside now and check in with Army Armstrong.
The concerns that some of the other driver have are the number of crew members that are coming out here now. Jim Steicotter, he's an old drag racer. He comes over with the Bob Chandler operation, is listed actually as a crew chief for that truck. But what he's serving really is a statistician for all the Bigfoot involved trucks here. He's the guy that dots I's and cross T's, but the other teams don't have the luxury of having a Jim Steicotter on their team, or the perfectionism that he brings to the sport with him from the sport of drag racing that he's been involved in. Back to you, Gary.
Well, Army, that's what Gary Porter was alluding to earlier. He was doing it really on his own as a privateer, didn't have the big staff to go along at each event.
Well, what happens, these trucks allow 3 crew members. Well, all the Ford guys are jumping in and helping each other. The Dodge and Chevrolet guys, they're still playing privateers. They're kind of like Custer. They're sitting out there on the hill by themselves right now.
There's a look at Colt Cobra, and there's a look at Dan Runte, a pair of Fords, the Power Wheels Bigfoot and Snakebite.
You got to remember, earlier in the year, Colt Cobra snookered Runte. I don't think it'll happen again. When I say he snookered him, he psyched him out. Runte, kind of a high-strung individual, a little bit nervous. Colt Cobra got the best of him once. Let's see if he can do it again.
They are both staged. Watch the Christmas tree. There they go.
Both leave good. No man's land, I think. Runte, what do you say?
Oh, Runte ever so close. It is a 5:25 for Colt. And for Dan Runte, a 5:21. So actually they slow down just a bit. There's the time for Runte, but Runte takes the victory by inches.
Well, they slow down in time, but that was a good side-by-side race. Check this out. A little bit of slip on the start line for Colt Cobra. That cost him. Runte took advantage of it and immediately goes the other end.
And for the 9th time this season, Runte goes to the finals. He's with Army.
Well, Snakebite, you put him away. You know Andy Brass is coming after you like a fast-moving freight. If he gets past his round, you know, what's going to happen at the end of the day here?
Well, that's just it. If he does, it's 2 Fords in the final, and that's what we shoot for every time we come out to a race like this. Besides that, Army, I don't know. We'll have to see what he turns for a time. That last pass he made, we'll just have to see what comes out of it and what lane we get thrown in.
All right, remember, the fast time will get lane choice. So it's Andy Brass and Gary Porter for the right to meet Dan Runte. There's the independent, the Carolina Crusher with Gary Porter. That's a Chevrolet.
That was an interesting interview with Runte because he's almost conceding that this race is going to be faster than his, and he will not have lane choice in the final. That kind of surprises me.
We'll see if he turns out to be a prophet, because Porter stages against the Big Blue of Andy Brass. There's the Bigfoot Ford. That is the Bigfoot Cruiser.
We understand Porter is building a new truck back in the Carolinas. He's going to try to be back on the circuit with it in the future, but right now he's just trying to play hang on with old equipment, to be very honest with you.
He's just finishing out the season this year to start really anew next year. Chevy against Ford. Chevy the near lane. Ford the far lane for the right to go to the championship round here in Canfield, and it is Andy Brass. Ooh, close at the end. Andy Brass, though, nails it. Look at that. 494. He'll have lane choice. 494 for Andy Brass. Gary Porter turns in a 504.
Any other race in 04 is good enough to win. Gee whiz.
Incredible as we take a look at the replay. See how close it is at the finish. Brass with the hole shot, but he just does hang on. And now we'll go trackside to Andy. Army?
Andy, you make changes. You and the crew been thrashing. You're talking about going 4.9. Son, you went the quickest in the sport, a 4.94 to go into the final.
Yeah, we did. You know, it's been something that I've been looking for all year. You know, I wanted to be the first guy to turn into the 4.9s, but Dan Patrick with the American Gladiator, he was the first one, and that kind of upset me a little bit, you know, so we knew we was going to have to do something else. We was either going to have to come back in and run a bunch of 4.9s consistent, or turn in either a 4.90 or maybe even a 4.80, and that's what I've been shooting for now. It's just going to see what we can do. You know, we got to run fast to get the points back and to get into the finals, and that's what we're doing.
Well, as Andy Brass gets ready for the finals, we want to go and show you now.
Gary, you know, in forms of racing like NASCAR racing and everything, the tires are so important. The announcers keep telling you how they're changing the stagger, they're changing the compound or what have you. This sport is no difference whatsoever. Andy Brass was trying to find the handle. I'm going to show you what the handle was. These tires are normally the rear tires on this truck. Okay, the rear tires back there now are normally the front tires. What he did was take those tires and reverse them because there is a weight difference. The tire that's on the front now is actually lighter and used to be on the back. Now that he's got more weight on the back, he seems to be pulling in the times. He doesn't seem to be pulling in the times. He's turning the fastest in the world. But looking for the handle, you hear that term all the time. In this case, he was just moving those tires back and forth and swapping them. Back to you, Gary.
Well, it certainly made a difference if, in fact, that is the reason why all these runs in the 4-second bracket this afternoon.
Well, you know, attention to detail you've got, and all young racers know this. You have to pay attention to detail. Somebody had to take away those tires to know that they were lighter. That's
why you have a crew chief. Yeah. Your team members, there's Andy Brass, the far lane. He has lane choice for this championship. His teammate, Dan Runte. Runte leads. Now, Andy Brass, really, with only 2 more events left in the PENDA Point Series, has to knock off Dan Runte.
Well, Andy Brass is the old pro. He knows what he has to do. Runte has played his hand. Now it's up to Brass to sneak in the back door and whack him in the head, and that's exactly what's going to try to happen there. I'm using terminology to let you know that Andy Brass still believes he can win this world championship. It'll be the 4th world championship if he does win it.
So you're saying it's his experience that will make the difference in the final 3 events of the year.
I believe so. They're both good racers. They're both
good run for both of them, but Andy Brass takes the victory. Oh, wait till you hear these times. The first 4-second final, 4.99 for Dan Runte in a losing effort, and Andy Brass goes a 4.91, and there is his ET once again, the first time ever both the finalists run in the 4-second bracket.
In the interview earlier, Andy said he thought potentially he could go into the 4.8s. I thought that was a little bit of hoping, but I tell you, a 4.91. He's just a blink away from a 4.80 run, the quickest side-by-side ever.
He did it. Let's go down to Andy.
Gary, the license plate kind of tells the tale. 4.91, quickest ever. Got to tickle you to death. We understand that puts you back in the national points lead.
Well, I'd have to look at the points. I don't know exactly where we're standing right now. I know we're going to be up there pretty close or right behind him if we aren't not, or just right ahead of him. The pass, I'm pretty happy with the pass. You know, we've been having a lot of problems with the truck. It's been running good, but it's just not been just peak, you know. I mean, I can tell when the truck's running and when it's not, and it's been dealing us a fit this weekend. But like I say, there at the end, we started changing just all kinds of stuff. I changed my driving style, and I kept with the style that I did change to, and it seemed that we just started getting down to 9s, you know, 497, 496 and that, and then that's where we stayed.
Whatever you did right. Congratulations, Andy.
Well, thank you, Arm.
And our congratulations to Andy Brass. Oh, he gets the bucket of ice water this week. That's becoming tradition now in the Bigfoot organization. That cools him off. Well, as we take a look at the PENDA Points Series, 11 of 13 events, there's the 230 lead for Dan Runte over Brass, and it's Colt Cobra and a Ford, then the Dodge and the Chevrolet as Runte signs the autographs.
Both
players in this game.
Okay, look out. Here's the ice for Dan Runte. That's going to wrap it up. We're going to head off to Indianapolis for Army. I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week. Hey, here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports. Andy Brass in Bigfoot has been a kingpin in monster truck competition for so many seasons. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Lee, and welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power here on the National Network. You know, I have to apologize. I'm a bit embarrassed. It seems like every time we come to my hometown, it is cool and wet. Although it's partly cloudy right now, it's been raining all weekend with more rain in the forecast. And speaking of raining, the guy who has reigned over this event for the past 4 years is Andy Brass. Now, it has to be a bittersweet weekend for Andy. This is his final weekend of monster truck competition. Yes, Andy is leaving the Bigfoot organization to pursue other motorsports interests. Now, it's also the final weekend of the PENDA Point Series Championship. And Andy finds himself in a tight points battle with, of all people, his teammate Dan Runte. So here with more on the complexion of the championship is my colleague, Army Armstrong.
Gary, there's all kind of stories going down here at Indianapolis Jamboree. First of all, the big news is Runte's out, Brass is still in, so Brass can close it on this national championship. Now, if Andy Brass is going to step down as a national champion, I'll guarantee he's not going to retire easy. He's going to go through that door screaming and hollering. He's put the handwriting on the wall today. He's not going to roll over for anybody. Speaking of handwriting on the wall, the qualifying session was awesome. Trucks breaking, tearing all kinds of stuff up just to get into this truck field of 12 fastest monster trucks in the world, because everybody wanted to be the last guy to get a shot at Andy Brass. Some of them get a chance to do it, but the big story, like I said, Runte's not going to be one of them. Gary, what does that do to the national points chase?
The points lead with a win in round 2 and start stockpiling the points because Runte's on the sideline after this run in round 1 against Pam Vodders. Now, Dan breaks something on the Power Wheels Bigfoot. And of course, the win goes to Vodders at 6:17. Look at the water still standing in the shutdown area. There's a look at the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Something wrong with the transmission. Now, also in round 1, Fred Schaefer, far lane, the Barefoot Dodge against Andy Brass in the Bigfoot Cruiser.
Now, this run was pivotal because what it did, his main competitor, Runte, was out. The big Dodge had been fighting all year long. He's out now, so Andy Brass is definitely sitting on a high ground in this monster. Yeah, that's important. The points lead is one race, but, you know, as we look at Andy Brass sitting on the line, Mr. Concentration. But, you know, Pam Vodders is a story all on her own. She and her husband run this vehicle called the Boogie Van. She's beaten these guys. We haven't seen her on TV a lot this year because she's qualified but not gotten past the first round. Again, today we're seeing a lot of new faces. We want to make sure people know the name Pam Vodders and Boogie Van. They'll be a player in the future. However, today,
not today,
not
because
going to be
she
the
has a
case.
mechanical problem right at the Christmas tree. And Andy Brass, with the 5:37 ET victory, moves back into the points lead. A lot of breakage here today. In fact, we have Paul Schaefer coming back as the fast loser for the semifinals. He was incredibly slow the last round. A lot of folks from the Ford front office here today watching Andy Brass.
I know you folks at Ford got to be awfully proud of this guy and what he's doing for you. He keeps bumping over in that winner's circle, Bill.
He's an outstanding young man, does a great job for Ford and a great job for Bigfoot. We're real proud of him.
That's coming from the top right there. How did it feel to you out there? You know, it's got to be emotional for you. Okay, I'm going to lay all the cards on the table, and you know everybody's coming after you. I know you want to win this thing. Where's your heart in this thing?
You know, my heart's in the truck right now, and just to make a good pass, be consistent all day today, and we're looking for a winner. You know, go all the way to the winner's circle this afternoon with the truck. Like I say, we're just coming out here. I'm just keeping my head clear, just trying to watch the truck. The Ford's been doing me a good job down through the track. As long as we can hold it straight and stay with it, you know, we're going to take her to the finals.
Well, I tell you what, we just found out this guy just went into the national point lead by 50 points. He's your new national points leader. Let's see if he can hang on and win this thing. Get close. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Army.
Third round, there's the big blue of Andy Brass. In the near lane, the Ford Bigfoot against the Chevy Samson of Dan Patrick. And of course, Dan was with the Bigfoot organization for a few seasons and has built many of these chassis in competition today.
Yeah, Dan's been an innovator in the chassis design for Bigfoot, plus himself. As a matter of fact, right now, he told me 6 chassis behind building new chassis for new truck. That tells you about the future of the sport. But you've got 2 very experienced drivers. Both of these drivers have won on this circuit this year. Patrick being the only Chevrolet to have won this year. Andy Brass has been there before. Let's see what's going to happen. Brass looks good off the start, Gary.
Yeah, Brass has him all the way, takes the victory. He'll go to the final. Hang on, Andy. He almost got that thing upside down. but a 5:51, that's not as fast as Dabney. Kirk will have lane choice. And there's Patrick's 6:82, but how about that? Kirk Dabney with lane choice, a quicker run than Andy Brass. Well, Andy Brass had him covered, but watch this rough landing. I mean, his season could have ended right there. He almost got in big trouble and almost got upside down, but he hangs on, pulls it out. Right now, he's down in the pit area with Army Armstrong.
Andy, final time, you know Dabney's tough. You know he's going to come after you with everything he's got. Plus, I believe he's got lane choice. I know he's got lane choice. Where's he going to put you, and does that bother you?
No, the lane choice doesn't bother me. Chances are he's going to throw us over in the right lane, you know, but the right lane's been running good. We've seen it run good in qualifying, you know. It just happened to be I stayed in the left lane today just trying to make passes because I knew some of the guys had faster times and I was going to have to run the left lane. So running in the right lane is not going to bother me a bit, you know. We feel the right lane's a lot better between the cars. Now, whether the takeoff on the starting is going to do any different, but, you know, the time is made between the cars, so if the track's better between the cars, we're hoping we can do it there.
All Ford final coming up. In fact, the first time this season. And Andy Brass. As we had guessed earlier, Kirk with lane choice took the lane nearest the camera, and there's Andy Brass. Andy now has the PENDA points lead, trying to secure another championship before he leaves the sport.
You alluded to something a moment ago that we need to bring out. A lot of the big guns from Ford Motor Company here watching this event, hands-on. They're out here watching these trucks run. Dabney could really help his cause if he could put that big blue truck away, because he also has a Ford.
A little factory support next year?
Hey, well, who knows?
Certainly helps, doesn't it?
They found out in NASCAR it sure helps.
But look at that. The sky has started to clear. We certainly appreciate that. It's always cold and dreary here.
It's your hometown.
So I feel bad about that.
We don't have this problem. We come to your hometown and you're not here. Hey, we got a race. Check this out. Check it out, Gary.
It is a good one. Who's going to take it? Who's going to take it? I don't know. She seems to know, but I don't know.
Whoa. Meanwhile, Dabney has definitely got his hands full.
Overkill takes the victory, does he?
Yes.
5:55. Overkill takes the victory over Andy Brass. So we have a brand new winner in victory lane, the first time this season for Kirk Dabney. Look at it again, ever so close.
Boy, Dabney leads on. We've got a good race. Two guys getting down in the trenches. Pull the trigger on the finish line right there. Dabney literally skies past him.
Oh, by inches he skies past him, and here's a happy Kirk Dabney. I even talked to Andy Brass.
Let me ask you real quick, Andy. One more race, then you're no longer a professional monster truck driver, but one more race will give you your third world championship. What's fourth? Okay, I stand corrected. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, all I'm worried about right now, like I said, is keeping the truck in one piece and trying to make it to tomorrow's race. And just, like I say, just get in it, be consistent, and try to make it into the finals. You know, if we can make it into the semifinals or the finals tomorrow, then that's all we need to do.
So it all comes down to the final race. Andy Brass's last hurrah in the Bigfoot Ford. But today, it was the Overkill Ford of Kirk Dabney. Our congratulations to Kirk and the Overkill crew. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. It's the four-wheel and off-road Jamboree Fall Nationals. Hey, this is it, the final weekend of the PENDA Points Championship and a shootout between the Bigfoot drivers, Andy Brass in the Bigfoot Cruiser and the Power Wheels Bigfoot with Dan Runte. It was only a few races back that Dan Runte took the lead from Brass. But in the 12th outing yesterday, transmission trouble put Runte on the sidelines after round one. So today, in what will be his final drive ever in the Big Blue Ford, Andy Brass holds a 450-point margin over Runte. Hey, anything could happen, and here with more in today's competition is Army Armstrong.
Gary, you talk about the best case scenario. The people that bought a ticket today, they don't need that whole seat. They just need the edge of the seat because the Bigfoot boys are putting on a show of shows. They both made it through the first round. That means they're going to go against each other in the second round. But you got to remember one thing. In this sport, the quick loser of this round comes back. So they could race each other now and possibly race each other again. It's a good day to be at the monster truck races, Gary. Let's watch them go.
Well, Andy Brass was the fast qualifier. Dan Runte fifth fast. So Andy picked up 40 points right there. Could well be on his way to his fourth title in monster truck competition. Earlier in round one, Ray Borkowski, the Dodge Express, the far lane against the Bigfoot Cruiser, and it was all Andy Brass. Now, you noticed, Army, those qualifying times were really slow. They qualified earlier today. It's a sloppy race course here in the infield at the State Fairgrounds, and I think the speeds will increase as the program continues. Also, earlier from round 1, Kirk Dabney, the far lane, winner the last race here at the Fairgrounds, but he gets taken out by Power Wheels Bigfoot, Dan Runty.
There's your other half of the main story we're talking about. You're exactly right. The weather is going to be dry for the rest of the day. It will only get quicker. I wouldn't want to get in the far lane now. They've got me scared of it.
Well, the Snake with the second quickest pass so far. Round 1, he takes on Paul Schaefer, and he takes out Paul Schaefer.
What lane was he in, Gary?
Well, let me guess.
The near lane.
Fastest one so far.
You folks following us at home now?
That means that coming up in round 2, that man right there, standing with Bob Chandler, Dan Runty, will take on Andy Brass. Stay tuned. It's coming up next.
Wonder who goes. Andy Brass is in the good lane. If I was a betting man, we'd be going with the blue truck on
Put
this
a
one.
shilling on the blue one right now, right?
Well, you know, unless, and that's not taking anything away from Runty. He knows what he's going to have to do, and he's got the means to do it. But Andy Brass is a tough old hombre right now, and you could see the World Championship decided on this run, Gary.
Virtually identical trucks, identical equipment. However, a big difference right now, 2. Experience.
Exactly.
And the lane choice.
Exactly. And both of them in the lane closest to you and I.
And the big blue
truck is going to the utter end.
If Andy wins, he is the champion in his final season of monster truck competition, and he is the champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just seen Andy Brass win his 4th World Championship, and the race is not over yet.
Well, he has been so dominant here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds over the years. We talk about the weather and the rain and how he's been raining, but he's been on top of the hill. He's the king you want to knock off, and so far today it hasn't happened.
Well, like any kind of racetrack, you got tracks you have good feels for. I'm sure circle track guys feel the same way. He just feels comfortable at the Indiana Fairgrounds.
We take a look again, evenly matched right here over the second jump, and he pulls away for the victory. He's with Army.
Andy, I tell you what, we hate to bother you at a time like this. We know you're concentrating on the event. Does everything feel good to you out there today?
Yeah, the truck's feeling real good for us, you know. The lanes, we've just been watching the lanes, like I say. I'm just sitting here trying to keep my concentration straight, you know. Gary's been doing me a real fine job tuning my motor, you know. We found some glinches in it there earlier today, and it looks like we got them worked out. So the truck's working good. The track's coming around there a little bit, and I'm turning in some fast times. So I'm just trying to keep to myself, keep my concentration up, and do a good job today.
Of course, Andy not content with the championship. He wants to. That's a good family type of sport.
Well, that's the way it is in any kind of racing. You hear the word family. When you see the green flag or the green light, it's racing. But up until then, you help each other.
Snake bite. Colt Cobra. He even has some help on occasion. And there's Fred Schaefer in the barefoot.
Schaefer would like to forget this year. They're doing a lot of research and development. They got the horsepower, the chassis. They missed the setup on it. But again, he's one of these guys that's going to go back to the drawing board and come out smoking for 95 or next year.
All right, you've got the Dodge against the Ford.
Ford in the near lane. What are we going to do here?
It's going to be Ford. Yeah, Ford takes the victory. And with the time that we're being told now, it would look like Runty will come back as the fast loser, a 544 for the snakebite truck, and a 574. So Dan Runty would come back as the fast loser, but still he's lost too many points to regain the lead and take the championship. We look again.
And Schaefer's trying a weird setup. He's leaving, I think, in 3rd gear. Notice how he's powering it in mid-range.
Well, Snakebite takes the victory. Colt Cobra is down out of the truck now, and he's with Army Armstrong.
Well, Colt, it looks like you and the Carolina Crusher are going against each other next round. He's having problems, but you're saying you can whip the Hillbilly anyway.
Yeah, I do call him the Hillbilly now and again, among other things. But this next round is going to be a very tough round. We've been watching Gary's times, and we were afraid we were going to get up against him. You're only talking a couple of thousandths of a second and a lot of mud out there. It's going to be very interesting this next round.
And snakes like mud. Well, speaking of interesting, these two guys will square off one more time. We're coming back.
Hillbillies like snakes.
Well, that's one bracket. Here's a historic bracket. These two guys have battled all season long for the championship. Andy Brass and Bigfoot. Dan Runty in Power Wheels. Andy Brass will retire after this race. His heir apparent is Runty. Well, talk about two guys that know Andy Brass well, Dan Patrick and Dan Runty. We talked to them earlier about his final race.
Well, Andy and I go back several years when I was his crew chief when I worked for Bigfoot. So, you know, we both learned a lot from each other. He's an excellent fabricator, probably one of my closest friends in the world, so I hate seeing him go, but you may see him with another team in the near future. Andy's one hell of a guy.
It's going to be kind of rough without him. He's moving on to NAS truck. I really think he'll do somebody a good job over there. I've been around Andy a lot. He knows his sport. He knows motorsports. And I just think he's an all-in-all good driver.
And he has just a tremendous fan following. And of course, despite locking up a title, obviously he wants to put his teammate away right here and go on and win this particular event.
You're going to see what Andy Brass is like. So I guarantee you, he's not going to roll over. He's going to go through the doors of life kicking and screaming. He wants to go out a winner. And that's only natural. And Runty wants to beat him. You know, let me tell you, a lot of guys came to this race for one reason today. They knew it was going to be his last time in a truck, and everybody wanted to get the last piece of Andy Brass.
You know,
nobody's done it yet.
Very few drivers, very few racers can really say that they won their last event in whatever given series they were last in before they moved on.
You're exactly right. You know, it's history. The National Championship settled. Now it's for bragging rights, and it's going to be
close.
Andy Brass.
Andy Brass, but it was close. Andy Brass slides to a stop. He knows he has the title in hand, and one more win here today, and he'll have this victory as well. So the Bigfoot Cruiser takes the measure of Dan Runty in the Power Wheels Bigfoot.
Runty at 5:43 was a good time. He ran him hard. You know, nobody rolled over. That was real racing. Well, when you go to the Jamborees, you're going to see real racing all the time.
No matter what the track conditions may dictate, you've got a good show right here. That's how close it was. Andy Brass takes the victory. There is the margin of victory right there. As let's go down now trackside once again and visit with Andy Brass.
Andy, we just talked to Gary. He said, you know, all these guys are giving 100% just like you have your whole life. How does it feel to go out there today?
Today, like I say, being the last race, it's really going to be, it's hard on me, you know, but like I say, it's my big thing today is try to at least win the last race of the year and my last race in the truck. So that's what I'm really gunning for. The PENDA series this year has been a tough series. You know, everybody's been coming up. The times have been so close this year. You know, it was the first time that we got into the fours this year with monster trucks. Dan Patrick said it was the first one with the truck to come down, and I set fast time this year with a 491, and this is just unheard of for these 10,000-pound trucks.
Well, coming up, there's a look at the snake bite, Colt Cobra, and he will take on Gary Porter. The snake bite's been in 3 finals this season. Can he make it 4? But remember, Gary Porter has had some chassis problems this weekend. Had to have the services of a welder. He's had some brake problems. Not a real great weekend mechanically for the Carolina Crusher. So the winner here goes against Andy Brass. And Andy is being congratulated there by his teammate Dan Runty as we take a look at the staging now with the Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter and Snake Bite.
You were talking about this race, Gary. There's another important factor you can't overlook, and that's lane choice. And this left lane is just paying dividends, and the right lane has been robbing these guys blind. Porter's in the right lane. I'm not saying advantage or disadvantage, but man, if I was racing, I'd sure want to get on the left side of this track. Porter's running good
right
though.
There, but it is Snake Bite. So a pair of Fords in the finals, Snake Bite and Bigfoot. There's a 5:39 ET for Colt Cobra.
The last guy that could beat Andy Brass is Colt Cobra.
There's a look at Gary Porter's number of 574. So the Snake Bite truck in the 4th final of the season. And he's standing by right on trackside with Army Armstrong.
Colt, you knew that Gary Porter was going to run you hard, but I think the lane had a lot to do with that win for you. Not taking anything away from you, but the lane worked good.
No, that's for sure. Gary had been running that lane. As you can see, it's been the fast lane all night. Luckily, we did have lane choice that had not more or less just a mental factor, but also it just doesn't have the traction there. We knew that, put him in that lane. With the Ford running the way it is tonight, I don't think we can lose.
We shall find out next. Your Army spoke with our new champion.
Andy, I tell you what, it is for me. I know it's got to be for you. It's got to be an emotional time. This is your last ride in a monster truck. Your career is going to end in a few seconds. Or you're going to be the national champion. So how hard are you going to run this thing?
Well, we're going to run this one just like we did all day. You know, we come out here, run a consistent race. You know, we've been setting some fast times. You know, our time's been getting faster all day, so we're just going to come out here and try to beat a little faster than what we was last round, pull away from the stake, and nothing better would suit me to win my last race of the year.
Well, that's the best way for a driver to go out. The final race, Andy Brass takes on his old nemesis, Snake Bite. And by no surprise, he put Snakebite over there in that right lane.
And Snakebite's not afraid of the right lane. He says he's got a handle on it. Of course, if you're a snake, I don't get some mud would bother you. We've already talked about that. Both drivers working the starting line back and forth. It's almost like neither one wants to go to the line first for the last run for Andy. You notice how they're going back and forth, and what they're doing really right now, it doesn't serve any purpose. They're just trying to get their rhythm going. Okay, I think Andy's going to go on stage first. There he is.
Think maybe his stomach right now is up in his throat?
I don't know. I'll tell you mine is, because this guy has been a class individual. We're paying in his crew. They've worked so hard to get him here. Look at that. You think the intensity's not here? Man, you are wrong. Even the Snakebite crew goes over to stand with them because they know this is going to be a double throwdown final race for Andy the Man Brass.
There it is, the final pass for Andy Brass, the great champion after 9 seasons, takes the win. He goes out in style. A big round of applause. Congratulations all around in the pit area. Andy Brass, the Bigfoot cruiser, laying down a good one in this mud, a 5:22 to the 5:51 of Colt Cobra. So Andy Brass not only wins the championship for the 4th time, but once again he goes out in style by winning his final monster truck event.
As Coach V would say, don't quit, don't ever quit. You'll be a champion. Andy Brass is.
Coming at you from the end zone, the win goes to the big blue Ford on that right side of the camera. And here he comes down to the shutdown area for the last time. So Bob Chandler, Bigfoot, the organization, takes the national title. Brass is your winner, and he is climbing out.
Well, Andy, to all our friends on the National Network, I want to introduce you to Andy Brass, 4-time world champion. Way to go, Andy. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Army. I appreciate it. You know, it was like I say, it was a tough series this year, the PENDA series. Everybody running, they was running hard, you know. Everybody coming up so much this year. You know, like I say, everybody's suspension got dialed in a lot more. Their motors, a lot of guys going with Linkos and clutches. And to come in here with a 2-year-old truck was really something for me to take the championship with it. You know, that was the only thing I had coming into the season because we had the truck pretty well dialed in from last year. But to do it 2 years in a row with the same truck, I'm just tickled pink.
Congratulations, 4 times a world champion. We're awfully proud of you.
Well, thank you, Arm.
Well, once again, let's take a look now at the final PENDA Points Championship. The congratulations all around for Andy Brass as Andy takes his 4th title in 9 seasons. Dan Runte, his teammate in the Ford Bigfoot camp, goes 2nd. A Ford with Colt Cobra 3rd. Then it's Fred Schaefer in a Dodge and Dan Patrick in the Chevrolet. Then it's Paul Schaefer, Kirk Dabney, Gary Porter, Ray Porkowski, and Pam Botters rounding out the top 10. Well, I'm not sure that's the way I'd want to celebrate in Victory Lane. That may become a new tradition in monster truck racing. Our congratulations to Andy Brass for Army Armstrong. I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news and exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.